Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the fanfiction guy. Back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku Had Animal Kingdom Quirk? Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Not everyone is born equally, and that was a lesson young Izuku Midoriya learned early on. At the age of 4 he discovered he was quirkless, and soon after, his friends began to distance themselves from him. They bullied him, calling him Deku, a term that meant he couldn't do anything. Even his so-called best friend, Katsuki Bakugo, whom he admired for his explosive quirk, was the first to label him a freak. The only support Izuku had was from his mother, who did everything she could to help him during tough times. But now, Izuku faced a challenge that would test his resolve like never before. Izuku walked, lost in thought after the humiliating experience of trying to enroll in UA. His classmates had laughed at him, and worse, Bakugo had torn apart his journal filled with dreams of becoming a hero. Although the journal was just singed, the words Bakugo had shouted at him stung deeply. If you wanted a quirk so badly, why don't you jump off the roof and pray for one, you quirkless reject? Izuku clenched his fists, anger boiling inside him. The worst part was meeting his idol, the hero who had saved him from a slime villain. He had asked if a quirkless person could still be a hero, but the answer had been a blunt no. He sighed, not realizing he had wandered into a chaotic scene where a villain was causing trouble. As a hero enthusiast, he felt compelled to investigate. But when he arrived, his heart dropped. The same slime villain was there, and he was holding someone captive, his mother. In a blur of instinct, Izuku sprinted toward the villain, despite the heroes shouting for him to stop. He couldn't hold back, he had to save his mom. Don't worry, I'm here, he shouted. The slime villain noticed him and swung a tendril, but Izuku dodged just in time, using his bag to hit the villain's eye. This distraction gave him a moment to try to free his mother. Inko, what are you doing? Get out of here. It's too dangerous, she cried. With tears in his eyes, Izuku replied, I can't just sit here and watch you get hurt. I won't let that happen. He struggled to pull her free, but the villain pushed him back with another tendril. You're nothing but a weak, defenseless brat, the villain laughed, wrapping another tendril around Inko's neck. Izuku's heart raced as he heard a sickening snap, and his mother's eyes went blank. No, 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 he cried, feeling a surge of rage and despair. The pain from his classmates' bullying and the anger toward the villain ignited something deep within him. With a primal roar, Izuku transformed into a beast, towering and fearsome. He felt powerful, and in an instant, the slime villain was no more. The heroes surrounding him were taken aback. Hold it, kid. You need to calm down, one of them said, but they only saw a monster before them. Izuku, now a werewolf, was filled with grief and fury as he looked at the heroes who had failed to protect his mother. Suddenly he shifted again, this time into a massive snake, coiling around one of the heroes. They tried to subdue him, but he slithered away, ready to strike again. Young man, stop, a powerful voice commanded. It was All Might, the hero who had crushed his dreams. Izuku glared at him, his eyes filled with disdain. You destroyed my dream. Listen, I know you're in pain, but wouldn't it be better to give your mother a proper burial? I'm sorry for your loss, but this isn't the way. Please understand, All Might urged. Tears streamed down Izuku's face as he looked toward his mother. Slowly, he transformed back into his human form, collapsing to his knees in despair. Time passed, and it was time for his mother's burial. But he couldn't bring himself to attend. After the incident with the slime villain, he had avoided school, feeling like a monster in the eyes of everyone, even the heroes. Back at home, he opened the door and stepped inside, lost in thought. Suddenly, his instincts kicked in. He transformed into a small mouse and hid in a cupboard as a purple portal opened. Two figures emerged, a man with hands on his face and another in a bartender suit with yellow eyes obscured by purple smoke. Where is he? Master said he was supposed to be here, the handman said, scratching his neck. It seems we were too late. Even if he were to hide, there doesn't seem to be anyone here, the other man replied. The one called Shigaraki laughed. Of course, Master was clever when he told that slime villain to capture and kill that brat's mom. Once we have him, he'll make a great Nomu with those powers of his. I can't wait. Izuku's heart raced as he listened, feeling a mix of fear and anger. He remained hidden until they gave up searching and exited through the portal. Once the coast was clear, he transformed back into his human form, his eyes glowing with determination. He knew what he needed to do. When I stepped into the shower, I couldn't shake the feeling of despair. So they're the reason my mom's gone, all because of me, I muttered, my fist striking the wall in frustration, leaving cracks like spider webs. Afterward, I quickly dressed in black dress pants, black and white shoes, and a white button-up shirt with rolled-up sleeves. I added a black waistcoat and black gloves, completing the look I had envisioned for myself. Once I was ready, I decided to gather the money my mom and I had saved, just in case something happened. I found a jug of gasoline and turned on all the burners on the stove. As I prepared to light the match, I sang softly to myself, "Just let it burn, let it burn, let it burn, because the wicked will face justice, and the innocent will be saved. So watch out, villains, your time is coming." With a flick of the match, I ignited the gasoline and, using my wings, soared into the sky. I looked down at the place filled with happy memories of my mom, the one who always supported me. "Don't worry, Mom. I'll make sure your soul finds peace, I promise." I flew off, determined to confront the wicked. It's been over 5 months since that night, and news had spread quickly that I had perished in the fire. During that time, I had been eliminating those who didn't deserve to live. Villains, RPSTS, robbers, and corrupt individuals, none were safe from me. Even the pros couldn't figure out how I managed to escape. Well, I would tell them. Because I'm awesome. With my quirk, Animal Kingdom, I could fully or partially transform into any animal at will. This power allowed me to navigate through situations with ease. While enjoying the night scenery, I heard a commotion nearby. It's been a while since I transformed, I thought, glancing up at the full moon. I guess I get stronger under its light. I began to shift into my first transformation, but instead of green fur, I had pure black, and I felt taller. I admired my claws, grinning as I leaped off the building, ready for the hunt. The next morning, I woke up in bed, feeling a bit disoriented. I quickly realized I was alone, and there was a noticeable lump on the left side of the bed. Okay, just calm down. Let's think back to last night. I started my hunt and got a bit carried away. I removed the sheets to find a girl around my age with shoulder-length blonde hair and a cute face. "Himiko Toga," I whispered softly, not wanting to wake her. I got out of bed and headed to the bathroom, reflecting on how I had come to this place. Thanks to my powers, I could change my appearance, making it easier to blend in. After finishing in the bathroom and wrapping a towel around myself, I returned to the bedroom. Himiko was awake, rubbing her eyes, the sheets dropped to her waist. I felt a rush of instinct but managed to stay calm. When she saw me, she smiled and got out of bed, wrapping her arms and legs around me. It's complicated, I thought. She's a villain, or at least she used to be. But I can't help it. I'm keeping her. Knowing I had time on my hands, I decided to enjoy our time together, and she happily agreed. We shared kisses and laughter, savoring each other's company. Afterward, we discussed what was next, and I told her it was fine for her to stay with me. We enjoyed breakfast while watching the news about my nightly escapades. Once we finished eating and cleaned up, Himiko went to take a shower. I decided to take a walk to see if there were any lingering criminals around. I put on my suit, adding a jacket with a hoodie since rain was expected. Just as I was about to leave, Himiko emerged from the shower. "Are you going somewhere?" she asked, looking captivating. "Just going for a walk. I might be back a bit late, so don't wait up for me, and please don't go after anyone." "That's my job," I replied, trying to keep my focus. She smiled and kissed me before I left. With my hood up, I wandered the streets, listening for any signs of trouble. Soon, I heard noises coming from an alleyway. Curious, I approached quietly, using my quirk to conceal myself. As I crept closer, I saw about 8 grown men, all dressed in dark clothing, surrounding a girl who looked to be around my age. Their leering expressions made my blood boil. "Please, someone help me," she cried out, panic evident in her voice. One of the men reached for her, but before he could act, a tentacle shot out, swiftly incapacitating him. The others turned in shock as I revealed myself, my eye glowing ominously from beneath my hood. With a swift motion, I used my tentacle to strike again, leaving them stunned. Their anger quickly turned to fear as they realized their fate was sealed. I crouched down, feeling the power surge within me, ready to confront them. As my body transformed, I felt the fur envelop me, pure black and sleek. My hands shifted into paws, claws extending and sharp. Everything around me moved in slow motion, but to me, it felt swift. I had become a black panther, quick and agile on my 4 feet. I used my claws and teeth to confront every criminal I encountered. With the last one attempting to escape, I pounced, catching him before he could flee. I swiftly subdued him, the rain washing away the remnants of the struggle. Turning my head, I noticed a girl watching in fear. I approached her slowly, sensing her shock as she remained frozen in place. As the rain fell, I began to transform back, and she seemed to calm slightly at my new appearance. "Are you all right? I hope those fools didn't hurt you," I asked, my voice breaking through her daze. "Why, yes, that I'm all right," she stammered, her brown bobbed hair framing her face, and her eyes sparkling with a hint of admiration. The blush on her cheeks made her look even more adorable. I shook my head, removing my jacket and draping it around her shoulders. "You'll catch a cold if you stay out in the rain," I said, noticing her blush deepen, which made me chuckle softly. However, the sound of police sirens approaching made me sigh. "Well, I guess we part ways. Keep the hoodie so you'll always remember me, miss," I prompted. "Oh, Ochaco, Rarika," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. I smiled and leaned in to place a gentle kiss on her cheek, leaving her momentarily speechless. "That's a beautiful name," I said, but then I heard footsteps approaching. I quickly transformed back into the Black Panther, looking at her one last time. "Until we meet again, beautiful," I whispered before leaping away, climbing swiftly to escape just as the police arrived to find the aftermath of the confrontation. Meanwhile, the police were questioning Ochaco about the incident, learning about the hero who had intervened just in time. They struggled to comprehend the situation, realizing they had finally identified the serial killer. Elsewhere, I navigated the rooftops, rain pouring down as I leaped from building to building. Eventually, I stopped and transformed back into my human form, my hair falling over my eyes as I thought of Ochaco. "Sigh, what am I, some kind of playboy? These animal instincts are overwhelming," I thought. I then summoned wings, taking to the sky and flying toward Municipal Beach. I landed on the sand, retracting my wings as the rain finally ceased. I enjoyed the sound of the waves, reflecting on how I had cleaned up the beach and, most importantly, thinking of my mother. Tears welled in my eyes as I whispered, "Mom, I promise I'll take down those who cause harm." With narrowed eyes, I gazed at the waves once more. Back at her apartment, Ochaco Urarika changed out of her wet clothes into something dry, her cheeks still flushed. "Oh my God, what is this feeling? I can't be liking him, am I?" she pondered, her heart racing at the thought of our brief encounter. Izuku's POV. During my transformation, I observed the other examinees and noticed that only a few seemed truly ready for the Pro League. My focus, however, was solely on Ochaco. Watching her in action brought a smile to my cat-like face. Nobody's POV, but that smile quickly faded when a loud noise echoed nearby, causing the hair on my feline form to stand on end. I turned to see a giant robot, towering over the buildings. Ignoring the other examinees who were fleeing in panic, I leaped from one building to another, my attention fixed on Ochaco, who was trapped under rubble, calling for help. It made me uneasy to see those aspiring heroes oblivious to the real danger. I landed on my feet and sprinted toward her. When Ochaco spotted me, she tried to warn me to stay away, but I ignored her plea and moved closer, smiling at her. Her confusion turned to shock as my cat-like body began to shift, taking on a more human form. "Izuku, and why would I let you get hurt even more?" Ochaco was taken aback to see me again. "Ochaco, what you?" I smiled and used my strength to lift the rubble off her foot. Izuku, can you stand? Ochaco, why? Yeah, a little bit. I nodded, then turned my gaze toward the robot, my pupils narrowing. I had an idea. As I approached the robot, Ochaco asked what I was planning to do. I simply smiled back at her. Izuku, you don't need to worry. I started running toward the giant machine, using my wings to gain some height. The other examinees, teachers, and even the principal were stunned to see me here. I retracted my wings and began running up the robot's arm. Izuku, I need to think of an animal that can help me in this situation. This might work. In moments, I chose my transformation. I grew taller and more muscular, my body covered in black fur, my feet becoming hooves. The most dramatic change was my head, adorned with 2 large, sharp horns. My eyes glowed bright green, and I took on the form of a minotaur. In a rush, I charged at the robot, using my horns to slam into its arm, cutting through the metal as I dragged my head along. I pressed on, using my strength to punch out the robot's lenses, causing it to stagger back and knock out several others. With a powerful leap, I soared into the air before landing with a thud, creating a large crater. I walked toward Ochaco, who was mesmerized by my transformation. I smiled and lifted her up in a bridal carry, heading toward the other examinees. Izuku, until I get close enough, I need to be prepared. I looked down at Ochaco. Izuku, Ochaco, listen. If you want to see me again, meet me at Municipal Beach after the exam this afternoon. She nodded, and I soon reached the other examinees, who stepped back in fear. I set Ochaco down, releasing a warning breath from my nostrils to keep them at bay. As the heroes approached, I stepped back and transformed back into my human form, smiling as I vanished from sight. Izuku, you can't really capture me if you can't see me. Bye for now, heroes. They heard a whooshing sound as I faded into the distance, realizing they had let a criminal escape. Meanwhile, Ochaco was being treated by Recovery Girl, reflecting on my words. If you want to see me again, meet me at Municipal Beach after the exam. End of flashback. Now back at Municipal Beach, I waited with Toga, enjoying the waves. Izuku, it's already 5 p.m., it won't be long before she arrives. Nobody's POV. It didn't take long for Ochaco to reach the beach. Having visited here with her parents when she was younger, seeing it restored brought joy to her heart. She scanned the beach for me and spotted not just me but also a girl around her age with blonde hair, playfully ruffling my hair. This sight brought a pang to Ochaco's chest. Ochaco, what is this feeling? She shook it off and walked toward us. Ochaco, hey! When I heard her voice, I sat up from Himiko's lap and smiled at her, causing her to blush. Izuku, I'm glad to see you came. Ochaco nodded, and I decided to introduce Himiko to her. Ochaco, it's nice to meet you, Toga, but I have a question. Both Himiko and I looked at her, puzzled. Ochaco needed to know why I had acted the way I did after saving her. Ochaco, are you two together? And Izuku, please tell me why you did what you did. She looked at us with pleading eyes. I took a deep breath. Izuku, well, you could say Himiko and I are together. This revelation caused a sharp pain in Ochaco's chest. Izuku, but... I stepped closer, looking into her eyes. Izuku, that doesn't mean I'll leave you. I wrapped my arms around her, pressing my forehead against hers. Her face turned red, and her eyes softened. When I finally released her, she whimpered at the loss of warmth, making both me and Himiko chuckle. Izuku, like I said, even though Himiko is with me, she doesn't mind if another girl joins us. Ochaco, really? I nodded. Izuku, now, you wanted to know why I did what I did, right? She nodded, and Himiko looked curious as well. Izuku, well, it all started when I was diagnosed as Quirkless. I began to explain everything from my struggles as a Quirkless child to being rejected by my idol, and even the loss of my mother. Ochaco and Himiko listened intently, tears in their eyes, feeling both sorrow and anger at the challenges I had faced. The people who wronged him because he was Quirkless. The two girls hugged him, reassuring him that everything would be okay. This made him smile at their efforts to comfort him. It felt nice. After that, the three of them decided to relax on the beach, talking while watching the waves. It was really peaceful. The weeks flew by, and we see Izuku finishing up his latest task, wiping his hands clean and jumping on top of a building to gaze at the stars. Izuku sighed, "I really wish you were still here, Mom. Giving me the support you always did. But I'm glad there are still people by my side." He smiled, thinking about Ochaco and Himiko, but then he recalled what Ochaco had said to him. "Ochaco, if by chance you take a different route in life, like harming an innocent person, as someone training to be a hero, I have to stop you. So promise me that won't happen, please." Izuku smiled back at her. "Don't worry, I promise. The people I confront are those who don't deserve to live, the ones who harm the innocent and those who are corrupted. They are the ones who need to be gone." He then gently kissed Ochaco on the forehead, making her blush. "So don't worry, I've got you and Himiko by my side." Ochaco couldn't find the words, burying her face in his chest, which made Izuku smile even more. Himiko hugged him tightly, planting a kiss on his cheek. Izuku cherished that memory, but suddenly he was pulled by some sort of white rope. Izuku's POV. Once I was pulled, I made sure to land on my feet and looked at the person who had the audacity to capture me. When I saw who it was, I groaned internally because the person who caught me was one of the pros from the entrance exam, Eraserhead, one of my least favorite heroes. How am I kidding? I basically dislike most of them with just a few exceptions. The heroine's cough. "This is something. You finally managed to capture me, huh?" I said, feeling the bonds tighten around me, restricting my movement. "You've caused quite a bit of trouble, Izuku Midoriya," Eraserhead replied. I narrowed my eyes, knowing the news traveled fast. I wondered how Bakugo would react to this. "Well, you know who I am. Do you want a cookie for investigating that?" I retorted. He didn't get a chance to respond before I transformed into a small rodent, causing the bonds to loosen and drop to the ground. I made my escape, laughing to myself as I left Eraserhead behind. It didn't take long for me to sneak into the apartment through the window, crawling toward the couch where Ochaco and Himiko were watching TV. I reverted to my original form, dressed as usual, and walked toward them. "Hey guys." The girls looked at me and hugged me, making me sigh in happiness. We decided to watch a movie to pass the time. Next week, Ochaco's going to UA, and Himiko's looking for a job while in disguise. Meanwhile, I need to find those villains soon. Those criminals are good at hiding. The most dangerous ones are really hard to track down, and it seems I can't transform into the animals from ancient times, but soon I'll be able to. I looked over to see the girls fast asleep, so I turned off the TV, made them comfortable on the couch, and covered them with a blanket, watching as they snuggled together. I decided to step outside and gaze at the stars again. It wasn't that hard for Ochaco to let us stay in her apartment. It's only for a little while, but it's good. She needs someone to talk to, like Himiko. My eyes narrowed slightly, but then I felt a strange sensation as I noticed a bit of blood. I guess I overdid it tonight. Using multiple transformations really takes a toll on my body, but if it means saving an innocent person, it will be worth it. I wonder what will happen after I take down those villains. Chapter End. Izuku's POV. I was enjoying a nice day flying in the sky, transformed into an eagle. It was around 8 a.m. Himiko and I had to return to our place because Ochaco had school, and Himiko was working as a model, which I found intriguing. There hadn't been any criminal activity yet, and I noticed police officers around, meaning they were looking for me, which made me chuckle. I flew toward UA High School to see Ochaco. I was sure she wouldn't mind, and thankfully, the pros or examinees hadn't seen me in my cat form. Otherwise, it would have been disastrous. Sigh. That was really too cheesy. I landed on a tree and spotted Ochaco's class, but my mood soured when I saw Bakugo using his quirk on a ball, shouting aggressively, "Jackass!" I transformed into my cat form and hopped off the tree, deciding to observe them from a distance. During the test for Ochaco's class, a boy with grape-like hair caught my attention. He seemed a bit odd, but I sensed he had a lot of potential, and I was curious about how far he would go. It didn't take long for them to finish their test, giving me the chance to get closer to Ochaco. Meow. When Ochaco looked down, she was shocked to see me and picked me up. She whispered, asking what I was doing there, and I playfully liked her on the nose, making her smile at my cuteness. She then told me we would meet up after school, and I nodded in understanding. Once she set me down, I dashed toward the tree, climbed it, and ensuring no one saw me, transformed into a white pigeon. I flew toward the gate of UA, settling in comfortably, knowing there were no criminals to confront. A few hours later, I was still waiting. Sigh, this was boring, but at least I slept well. Being a pigeon isn't so bad, I guess. Just then, I heard the school bell ringing, signaling that the students were heading home. I scanned the area for Ochaco and upon spotting her, flew down close to her. I landed on her shoulder, and we walked together toward her apartment. It didn't take long to reach it, and seeing Himiko there made it even better. Now it was night, and I was in Ochaco's apartment, sitting at the computer and searching for crime lords in the city while the girls were. As I lay there, rubbing my eyes, I felt a wave of disgust wash over me at the thought of these criminals still being alive. It had taken a while to track down these wrongdoers, but I had finally zeroed in on one particularly notorious individual, and tonight, I was determined to confront him. Number 1 on my list was Shiroi Koroshimasu. He was a 56-year-old man, standing at 5 feet 9 inches with a square-shaped face, dark brown eyes, and short gray hair, marked by a scar running vertically down the left side of his face. His quirk allowed him to shoot needles from his hands, which could vary in size from thin to large. However, there was a drawback. Once he reached his limit, his fingers would become numb, leaving him unable to move his hands. Shiroi had a dark past, having been involved in multiple human trafficking cases in his youth, along with accusations of robbery and drag dealing. He had once been married, but both his wife and daughter had died under mysterious circumstances. Despite being arrested several times, he had pleaded not guilty and managed to build a large business with over 100 criminals working for him. My eyes glinted with determination as I absorbed this information. Finding his residence hadn't been difficult, but getting there would take some time. I prepared myself for the night ahead. Instead of my usual suit, I opted for a stealthier approach. I donned a full-body suit made of Kevlar, complete with braces to protect my forearms and shins, black combat boots, and fingerless gloves. As I walked toward the room where Ochaco and Himiko were sleeping, I couldn't help but smile at their peaceful faces. I leaned down and kissed each of them on the forehead, eliciting soft smiles in their sleep. After that, I put on my mask, concealing my face while allowing my glowing eyes to shine through the darkness. I pulled out my phone and entered the coordinates for my destination. Once I was ready, I slipped out of the apartment through the window, ensuring no one saw me. I transformed into a black Japanese golden eagle, taking to the sky. As I soared high above, I felt the cold breeze ruffle my feathers. It's going to be a long night, I thought, my heart racing with purpose. I was one with the animal kingdom, but I was also human. I would do whatever it took to protect the innocent, especially those I loved. With my eyes narrowed, I sped off into the night sky. Meanwhile, at an unknown bar, familiar faces gathered. A man with pale blue hair, partially obscured by his hand, was watching the news. Do you see Kurojiri? He's quite something. That kind of power will definitely be valuable to us, he remarked to another man, who was dressed in a bartender suit, his entire head enveloped in a purple mist. You're right, Shigaraki. He'll be a significant asset to the league, and I'm sure our master will appreciate it, Kurojiri replied. Shigaraki smiled at the thought, imagining how proud his master would be. I can't wait to get him. Just you wait, Izuku Midoriya, he said, holding up a picture of Izuku in his school uniform, smiling brightly before he had acquired his powers. Because you'll be helping us very soon. Little did he know, he was about to make a grave mistake, along with his master, for you should never provoke a beast in full rage. Izuku's POV. I'm almost there, and when I'm done, I can finally relax. It's been a couple of hours since I left the apartment, soaring through the sky in my transformed state. As I perched on a tree to get a better view, I detransformed and checked my phone. 11:25 p.m. I put my phone away and focused on the situation ahead. Using my enhanced vision, I spotted about 10 guards at the front, with a few more patrolling the second and third floors. There were cameras too. This wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to make the most of it. I decided to stay in my human form for now and crept closer to the house hidden in the woods. This fool really thinks he can hide. It didn't take long to get closer and I noticed the cameras. I needed to act quickly. In front of me were 5 men clad in black, armed and alert. Their presence was unsettling, but I had to conceal myself. I shot a strand of web at the cameras, knowing it could cause trouble, but it was necessary. One of the guards was discussing my reputation, making the others wary. "This guy is really a killer even at a young age," one guard said. "We need to be careful. Our boss said there's a chance he'll strike here." Just then, the guard felt something wrap around his neck, and before he could react, he was gone. The other guard met the same fate moments later, leaving them lifeless on the ground. I revealed myself, glancing down at my work before heading towards the control room. I quickly formed tentacles from my back to move the bodies behind some trees, just as another guard approached. When he arrived, he scanned the area, sighing in relief until he heard static from the cameras. "Huh, that's weird," he muttered, confused. Before he could turn around, something wrapped around his neck, lifting him off the ground. The last thing he saw were my glowing green eyes filled with determination. Once he was dealt with, I slipped inside, using my chameleon abilities to blend in. Luckily, one of the men had left a map of the building. "Looks like the control room is on the second floor," I noted. It wouldn't be easy though. I activated my infrared vision and spotted 7 men guarding the room. Below, I could sense 15 to 25 men on the first floor, and the main boss was in his master bedroom, surrounded by 12 guards. I knew I had to reach the control room if I wanted to succeed. This will be tough, but I've faced worse, I thought, crawling along the walls to avoid detection. When I'm done with the control room, I'm taking down every single one of these guys. Izuku's POV. It didn't take long for me to bypass the guards, moving silently and controlling my breathing. I transformed into a small fly and slipped under the door, where I saw multiple screens and a guard sitting in front of them. He noticed an interference on one of the cameras and reported it to the others below. Just as he was about to check another camera, I struck from behind, rendering him unconscious. I landed softly and examined his hands, which had quills similar to a porcupine's. "Good thing I studied human anatomy," I muttered. I moved him from his seat and placed him face down on the floor. Just then, I heard a voice crackle through the security transmitter. "We saw the camera break. I can't get through with 3 of the boss's men." I picked up the transmitter and mimicked the guard's voice. "I need you to investigate if there's an intruder. Search the ground floor and report back to me and the boss. Is that clear?" "Roger," the guard replied. Once I turned off the transmitter, I sighed. Now that I have access to the security system, it's time to shut this place down for a little fun. I smiled, locking the door behind me and looking up at a vent. "Guess I'm going rat traveling," I said as I transformed into a rat and scurried through the vents toward the electric system. I had memorized the house's layout, making it easier to reach my target. When I arrived at the electric system, I decided to use echolocation on a broader scale to locate my targets. A smile crept across my face as I prepared for the hunt. "Let's begin," I thought, partially transforming my hand to resemble that of an electric eel, supercharging the system to cause a blackout. With the lights out, I transformed into my favorite mythical creature, the werewolf. Once darkness enveloped the building, I moved swiftly. The guards only saw my glowing eyes before chaos erupted around them. Showed no mercy, as they cared little for the lives they took or the reasons behind their villainy. Even if their motives were questionable, I found a grim satisfaction in confronting them. It didn't take long for me to deal with the first, second, and even the security guard. Now, only the big man remained. Just then, the lights flickered back on, and I could sense more guards approaching. A full-body assault was in order. When the remaining guards witnessed the chaos, they hesitated, but their reaction was too slow. I dispatched them in an instant, fur stained with remnants of the confrontation. I approached my target and burst through the door, finding him seated alone, a smug expression on his face. Shiroi Koroshimasu looked at me as if he had already won. Shiroi, I must say your reputation is well-deserved. You show no mercy even at such a young age. I wasted no time and lunged at him, but he managed to evade my claws. Izuku, you're right, I don't show mercy and you're on my list. He chuckled, unfazed. Shiroi, if you think I'm like my men, you're mistaken. But I admire your boldness. Until the heroes arrive, let's make this entertaining. His words shocked me. I needed to finish this quickly. I growled at him, his obnoxious smirk only fueling my anger. Izuku, I'm looking forward to sinking my claws into you. Shiroi chuckles, you have much to learn if you think I'm an easy target. We charged at each other, arms colliding. My eyes narrowed, teeth bared, while he maintained that infuriating smirk. Izuku, I'm not here to play games. I need to hurry if I want to escape those heroes. The battle dragged on longer than I anticipated. His quirk allowed him to shoot projectiles from his fingertips, and his physique indicated he was no pushover. We dodged and weaved, but I knew I had to unleash my full power. Shiroi, what's the matter? Getting tired from an old man? That remark ignited my fury. I charged at him, ignoring the needles that struck my arms. His age was a disadvantage, and I seized the opportunity, grabbing him by the neck and slamming him to the ground. He gasped for air, and I wasn't satisfied yet. With a swift motion, I broke his arm, relishing the sound of his scream. Izuku, music to my ears. I smiled at him, delivering a kick to his ribs that cracked bone. It was time to end this. Izuku, any last words? He simply smiled back at me. Shiroi, the heroes will come for you. You're just like us, a killer without mercy. All the lives you've taken will haunt you. With that, I transformed my foot into a powerful hoof and slammed it into his chest. Blood spilled, and I saw the light fade from his eyes. He was finally dead. I sighed, acknowledging his words. I didn't fear the past, they were the ones who feared me. I leaped through the window and landed outside, catching the scent of ash, wood, and various animals approaching. I realized I was bleeding from my arms and legs. Those needles had done a number on me. Healing with an animal's ability would only intensify the pain. Soon, the heroes arrived: Endeavor, All Might, Mirko, Eraserhead, Present Mike, Midnight, and other UA teachers. I needed to escape but had to dodge Eraser's scarf just in time. I transformed into the Minotaur, narrowly avoiding a fire blast from Endeavor. My heart raced, confusion washing over me, but I had to block a punch from All Might. All Might, you've caused quite a stir. Turn yourself in, young Midoriya, for your mother. His words ignited a fury within me, and my eyes turned a fierce ruby red. I didn't care about the pain, I was ready to fight. Izuku, you've made me angry now, All Might, you hypocrite. What happened next shocked the other heroes. I punched All Might with such speed that he couldn't react, hitting his weak spot and causing him to cough up blood. But I wasn't finished. I grabbed his head, aiming for my knee, and pushed him back, immobilizing him. The other heroes panicked, unable to comprehend how I had taken down All Might so quickly. Suddenly I heard a voice call out, "Crescent Moon!" In that moment, I narrowly avoided a powerful kick aimed at my head from the rabbit hero, Mirko. "Mirko, you're lucky to dodge my attack." She smiled, excitement evident on her face. In an unexpected twist, I transformed into a bunny, my hair black with long ears and powerful legs. I didn't understand this transformation, but I knew I had to be ready. Mirko lunged at me again, and I instinctively blocked her kick, leaving her stunned. I focused on her and the other heroes, preparing for whatever came next. I looked to see Mirko arguing with Endeavor. "What the hell? I had him right where I wanted him," she exclaimed, frustration evident in her voice. Endeavor merely scoffed at her, which only fueled her anger. Somehow, my body seemed to have a mind of its own as I dodged a blast of sound from Present Mike. With my speed, I quickly incapacitated him, leaving him unconscious. Suddenly, I heard the crack of a whip slicing through the air, and I had to block it, along with multiple attacks from ectoplasms coming my way. Thinking quickly, I used the strength in my right leg to deliver a powerful kick, pushing them back. But then I felt a sharp pain in my arm as I was shot, causing me to cry out. Before I could recover, Eraserhead struck me in the face, and I found myself trapped in concrete by Cementos. I struggled, but it was no use. Gritting my teeth, I knew I couldn't escape. Finally, your days of killing are over, Eraserhead said, his voice steady. Even if they try to send you to jail, they don't know how far I'll go to stop you. I began to sweat, my heart racing as that familiar feeling surged within me, like a spark ready to ignite into an inferno. Just then, Endeavor approached, his glare intense as he pointed his palm at me, making my eyes widen in alarm. This drew the concern of the other heroes, who were starting to recover. Energetic, what are you doing? Eraserhead shouted in disbelief. What should have been done a long time ago, Endeavor replied. Just as the heroes attempted to intervene, he unleashed his flames toward me, and I screamed in pain. The heat was unbearable, my skin feeling like it was burning away. But then just as suddenly, the flames transformed, becoming warm and deep within my mind. That spark erupted into a blaze, and I felt myself morph into a mythical creature of fire. From a distance, the flames where I stood exploded, sending the pros reeling back. As the smoke cleared, they could only see ashes with no sign of my body. Mirko rushed over to Endeavor, her voice filled with frustration. You idiot! We could have sent him to the police, not killed him. The others nodded in agreement, while All Might looked down, reflecting on what I had said to him. What no one noticed was the ashes stirring, and then flames ignited, revealing a figure within the light. To their shock, it was me but with different features. My hair was a mix of red, orange, and blonde, my skin glowing. I wore a yukata for my upper body and long golden pants, barefoot, with golden eyes and fiery wings unfurling behind me. Everything happened so quickly, all the heroes were down, unable to move, which only fueled Endeavor's anger at being taken down by a criminal. You all are lucky I'm showing mercy, especially you, Endeavor and All Might, I said, my voice steady. I hit a specific pressure point that will keep you immobile for about 5 minutes. Before I left, I turned to Mirko, placing her in a sitting position and giving her a gentle smile as I touched her cheek. This made her blush. Until we meet again, little bunny, I said, glancing back at the heroes. With that, I soared high into the air, a stream of light trailing behind me, leaving the pros to wait for the 5 minutes to pass. It was morning when I found myself lying on the floor, my clothes slightly damaged from the fight the night before. I groaned and sat up, checking the time. It was 5 a.m. My mind replayed the events of the previous night, the chaos of my transformation into a mythical creature. Was it my emotions that triggered it? I pondered. It made sense, considering how I had transformed into a werewolf and a minotaur before. My anger and sadness over my mother's death, my fear, and my determination to protect Ochaco, all of it contributed. And perhaps seeing Endeavor's flames had awakened the phoenix within me. With a sigh, I pushed those thoughts aside. I stood up and headed for the shower to freshen up. Afterward, I dressed in black jeans, a fitted black shirt that showcased my muscles, and a red and black hoodie, finishing the look with white and red sneakers. After breakfast, I wrote a note for the girls, letting them know I was stepping out for a while. It wasn't hard for me to hide my identity. I changed my hair to brown and my eyes as well, making it easy to blend into the crowd. As I walked, my thoughts drifted back to the fight with Mirko. The way I had instinctively transformed into a rabbit made me wonder if there was something more between us. I sighed, contemplating why that had happened. I received messages from Himiko and Ochaco. One was heading to work, and the other to school. It wouldn't be so bad to see Ochaco for a bit, but then I caught the scent of blood nearby. Avoiding the crowd, I followed the scent to the roof of a building. Using echolocation and a snake's heat sensor, I spotted a young man who was the culprit, with a woman still alive nearby. Without wasting any time, I climbed up the side of the building and swiftly took down the crook, asserting my dominance with a primal roar. The next 5 months passed, and we find Izuku on the beach, watching the waves with Himiko, enjoying the scenery. As Himiko playfully ruffled his hair, Izuku's thoughts drifted back to the second time he saved Ochaco. Flashback, around 8 in the morning. Izuku soared through the sky, using his transformation to become a bird, ensuring he remained unnoticed. Ochaco Uraraka, he sighed. I can't stop thinking about her. Maybe Himiko wouldn't mind sharing me. I'll ask her later, but for now. He spotted his destination, Ue High. Swooping down swiftly, he landed on a tree and transformed into a sleek black cat with striking green eyes. Finding out she's taking the UA exam wasn't too difficult, it only made me more curious about her. Izuku hopped off the tree and landed in a bush just in time to see his target. Ochaco was walking, trying to apologize to Bakugo. That guy, he thought, feeling a surge of anger. With his feline agility, he decided to intervene. He rushed in, leaping and delivering a swift kick with his back legs, causing Bakugo to stumble and leaving Ochaco surprised. When Bakugo noticed Izuku in his cat form, he scowled, not realizing it was Izuku. Izuku hissed, urging Bakugo to back off. Bakugo clicked his tongue and walked away, leaving Izuku and Ochaco together. Wow, you're one feisty kitten, aren't you? Ochaco said, petting Izuku on the head. He purred at her touch, making her smile. Thanks for that, little kitten. I have to go now, bye. As she walked toward the building, Izuku decided to follow her, carefully avoiding being seen. He was on a stealth mission, observing Ochaco and the other examinees as they took their test. Soon, everyone was seated, waiting for the next part of the exam. Izuku pressed his cat ears down, hiding under Ochaco's seat as Present Mix's loud voice announced the practical exam. Once that was over, he needed to act quickly to follow her, which led him to the girls' locker room. Well, this is unexpected, he thought. He transformed into a fly to hide in one of the lockers, but when the door opened, it was Ochaco who found him. Huh, what are you doing here, little kitty? She asked, lifting him off the ground in her arms. The other girls noticed and cooed at Izuku, eager to pet him. After some time, we see Izuku resting on Ochaco's lap, enjoying her warmth and the gentle smile on her face. When she finished getting ready, she placed him on the ground, waking him up. Sorry, little one, but I have to go, she said before leaving. Izuku decided to explore one of the buildings and observe. In the meantime, Ochaco was in Class 1A, seated with her classmates as Aizawa stood at the front, preparing to make an announcement. Now, this may be surprising, but we will have someone here to help you improve your quirks as best as he can. Curiosity filled the room as they wondered who it could be. A knock echoed through the classroom, and Aizawa instructed the person to come in. The door opened to reveal a tall young man with long brown hair tied in a ponytail and striking red eyes. He wore black dress pants, a black shirt, and casual shoes, looking quite handsome. When he stood in front of the class, he smiled warmly, appearing innocent and approachable. It's nice to meet you, Class 1A. I apologize for the short notice, but I will be assisting your sensei, thanks to your principal. One student raised their hand, and it was Ochaco. Excuse me, sir, but could you please tell us your name? The way the young man looked at her felt familiar, causing her cheeks to flush. He smiled back. Sure, my name is... Previously on Izuku One with the animals. Ochaco, excuse me, sir, but can you give us your name, please? The way the young man looked at her felt familiar, making her blush, which led to a smile from him. Sure, my name is... And now, the name is Tenko Kitsune, but you all must refer to me as Kitsune-sensei or sensei, okay? The class nodded in agreement, except for an explosive blonde who glared at the newcomer, who simply ignored him. Tenko, well, it was nice meeting you all, and I hope to see you soon, but I have things to discuss with Principal Nedzu. With that he left. Location, Nedzu's office. Tenko, Izuku, headed toward Nedzu's office. After knocking on the door, he heard a voice say, "Come in." Once inside, he saw he was the only one there and noticed Nedzu smiling at him. Nedzu, so, how's it going so far, Mr. Midoriya? Izuku sighed, realizing that the one and only animal hybrid, a clever one at that, had figured out who he was. He wondered why he wasn't thrown in jail. Nedzu trusted him because, with Izuku's ability to transform into animals, there was an inherent feeling of trust. Given that he's part dog, Nedzu understood that Izuku's actions stemmed from the loss of his mother. When Izuku explained his motives during his infiltration earlier that day, Nedzu recognized him as a good person. After that, they played chess while enjoying a cup of tea to pass the time. Nedzu, I see you're getting quite acquainted with the students. Izuku chuckled while moving his piece on the board. Izuku, I guess you could say that, but one of the students kept glaring at me, and not in a good way. Nedzu, Mr. Bakugu? Izuku, yep. Nedzu sighed, having learned about Izuku's past before his mother's passing. He was shocked to discover Bakugu's unforgivable actions at the school before coming to UA. Izuku reassured him that it was fine and that it didn't matter. He also mentioned that when the time came, he would enjoy challenging Bakugu's pride, which made Nedzu shiver. Izuku, Nedzu, are you sure it's okay? I mean, I know I wanted to do this to be close to Ochaco, but if word got out, you might be arrested for having a criminal in your school. Nedzu smiled. Nedzu, I'll take the penalty if I have to. You are a good person, Midoriya, and the people you have taken down were nothing but a waste who had no intention of changing. I know it could have been different for you after discovering your quirk, but finding out who orchestrated your mother's death shall not stand. I'll do whatever it takes to ensure that happens. Izuku's face filled with hope as he smiled at Nedzu. After a tie game, Izuku decided to excuse himself and left. While walking, he thought about the potential of a specific person, Minoru Mineta. Even if he was a bit of a troublemaker, his quirk had more to offer than just capturing. As Izuku walked, he bumped into a student, a girl from Class 1A with 2 different colors in her hair. He quickly recognized her. Tenko, Oh, I'm sorry for bumping into you, Miss Todoroki. She looked at him for a moment, nodded, and continued on her way, leaving Izuku confused. He narrowed his eyes, realizing she was the daughter of Endeavor, but shrugged it off and continued to the teacher's lounge. During that time, he started to get to know the teachers, becoming close to Aizawa, Mike, and Midnight, who was playfully trying to get him to go on a date with her. He did his best to avoid it but found himself thinking about it. Now we see Izuku in his disguise, standing in front of Class 1A, who were eagerly asking him questions. Most of the boys were curious about his quirk, which he described as a strength quirk that increases 5-fold. Mina asked if he was single, given his youth and proximity to their age. Tenko, well, if I said yes, would you be interested in going out with me, Miss Ishido? This made Mina blush, and Izuku smiled at her reaction, which also earned him heated glares from Bakugu for no apparent reason. Before Izuku could continue, a voice boomed. I am here, coming through the door like a normal person. The person who entered was All Might, and Izuku sighed internally while the students excitedly greeted the number 1 hero, except for Ochaco. Izuku, how is that normal? Once All Might stepped in, Izuku decided to introduce himself. Tenko, it's nice to meet you face to face, All Might. I'm Tenko Kitsune. All Might laughed and shook Tenko's hand. All Might, it's very nice to meet you, young Kitsune. I hope we get along as teachers. Izuku nodded, internally debating whether he should just kick All Might in the shin. All Might, now today we will be doing combat training. This announcement pumped up most of the students. All Might, and what's a hero without their hero suits? As he said this, Izuku pushed a button to reveal lockers with numbers on them, exciting the students. All Might, now suit up and meet me and young Kitsune at ground beta. With that, All Might left in a flash, along with the students, leaving Izuku in the room. He used the remote to press another button, revealing another locker. When he opened it, a smile spread across his face. Izuku, let's show the students the definition of fear. Location, ground beta. All Might stood at ground beta, looking toward the students as they approached, a wide smile on his face. All Might, looks like you all are ready. How hero-like. Now, are you little zygotes ready? Before he could continue, one of the students raised their hand, a girl with green hair tied in a bow, wearing a green jumpsuit that fit her perfectly, along with goggles. All Might Sensei, we're missing Kitsune Sensei. Can you tell us where he is since he'll be part of the training? But just as All Might was about to respond, they heard footsteps approaching from behind. When they turned around, they saw a lone figure approaching, wearing a black jumpsuit with a hoodie to cover his hair and a fox-like mask with glowing red eyes. During this time, the girls were admiring the figure's physique, feeling a flush of warmth as he approached them. He executed a cartwheel followed by a front flip, landing gracefully beside All Might. "All right, are you all ready?" he asked. When he removed his hood, it revealed long brown hair tied in a ponytail. As he took off his mask, they recognized their sensei, Tenko Kitsune. "For your training, students," he said with a smile, though internally, he was smirking at Bakugo, anticipating some challenging moments for him. When the students saw their sensei's face, they were surprised by his impressive build. Despite his slim appearance, he was fit and muscular, making some of the boys envious while the girls looked at him with admiration. "All right now, students, let's get this show on the road," he said firmly, quickly putting his mask back on to hide his blushing cheeks, caused by the girls' outfits that accentuated their figures. Meanwhile, Izuku was trying to maintain his composure, especially with Toru Hagikure's presence, who was wearing gloves and boots. His heightened senses made it difficult to focus, especially with Jairu in her punk-style hero suit. Izuku sighed and turned away. "Control your emotions," he muttered to himself. Once he regained his composure, he faced the class and then looked at All Might. "All Might, if you would," he prompted. "Oh, of course. Now let's begin the training," All Might exclaimed. "Excuse me, sir, but this looks like the battle center from the entrance exam. Will we be doing urban battles again?" asked Tenya Ida, who was dressed in a futuristic knight suit that suited him well. "No. We're taking 2 steps ahead. Most villain encounters happen outdoors, but indoor villain activity is on the rise. Imprisonment, house arrest, backroom deals. In a society filled with heroes, truly intelligent villains often hide in the shadows." Izuku clenched his fists at this revelation. "It seems after this, I'll be looking for these so-called villains in the shadows. For this class, you'll be split into villains and heroes for 2-on-2 indoor battles," All Might explained. Izuku interjected, gaining the attention of the class and All Might. "Since there's an odd number, I'll team up with one of the students who is alone in this training. Is that all right with you, All Might?" All Might nodded in understanding, and several students agreed. Tsuyu raised her hand to ask a question, which All Might allowed. "But what about basic training? Aren't we supposed to be doing that?" she inquired. "This is a real battle to understand those basics. However, the key this time is that there are no robots to defeat," All Might replied. Izuku thought, "Is he serious?" Momo asked, "How will wins and losses be determined? Can we just beat them up anyway?" Bakugo chimed in. "Will the punishment be expulsion like with Aizawa-sensei?" Ochaco added. "How will we be split up?" Ida asked, adjusting his trusty robotic arms. "Isn't this cape fabulous?" Aoyama remarked, drawing attention to his attire. All Might was overwhelmed by the barrage of questions. Just as he was about to respond, Izuku, in his Tenko persona, stepped in to assist. "Let me help with this, All Might," he said, holding a script that surprised All Might, who allowed him to continue. "The situation is that the villains have hidden a nuclear weapon somewhere in their hideout. The heroes need to either catch the villains or retrieve the nuclear weapon within the allotted time, while the villains must protect it or capture the heroes. I hope this answers your question, Miss Yaoyorozu," he said with a smile, making Momo blush and nod in response. "This is very American-like, you know that, right?" Tenko remarked, eliciting a chuckle from All Might, who scratched the back of his head, slightly embarrassed. All Might then produced a yellow box. "Now, all of you will draw lots for teams and fight against your opponents. I hope this answers your question, Mr. Ida?" Tenko asked. "A little bit, Sensei, but I find it a bit haphazardly decided, don't you think?" Ida replied. "I understand your concern, but you need to know that most pro-heroes form teams from different agencies and must adapt to each other and the situation to complete their missions while ensuring there are no casualties," Tenko explained. Ida nodded and encouraged Izuku to continue. Now, onto other questions that need addressing. Mr. Bakugo, please try not to cause too much damage, that would be helpful. Bakugo merely scoffed at that. Meanwhile, Izuku was torn. Part of him wanted to confront Bakugo, but he needed to maintain his calm persona, hoping to see Bakugo change for the better. Izuku shook off those thoughts and turned to Ochaco. There won't be any punishment this time, Miss Uraraka, so you don't need to worry. Izuku's eyes briefly changed to green, catching Ochaco's attention. Izuku? She asked, concerned. Now, Mr. Aoyama, I must say your cape looks absolutely fantastic, Tenko complimented, giving him a thumbs up, which made Aoyama sparkle with delight. After all the questions were answered, Izuku let All Might take the stage again. Now, you all need to pick out a letter and find your partner who has the same letter. Let's start with young Kitsune. Izuku shrugged and reached into the box, revealing a ball with the letter. Now for the other teams. Team A, Tenko Kitsune and Ochaco Uraraka. Team B, Shoko Todoroki and Mizo Shoji. Team C, Momo Yaoyorozu and Minoru Mineta. Team D, Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida. Team E, Mina Ishido and Yuga Aoyama. Team F, Rikido Sato and Koji Koda. Team G, Denki Kaminari and Kyoka Jiro. Team H, Fumikage Tokoyami and Tsuyu Azui. Team I, Mashareo Ojiro and Toru Hagakure. Team J, Ijiro Kirishima and Hantasiro. Once the teams were set, Izuku walked forward. Tenko smiled at Ochaco. Well, I hope we have an amazing cooperation, Miss Uraraka. Ochaco could only blush and look down, feeling flustered by Izuku's actions. Izuku, you big dummy, she exclaimed. Izuku chuckled and turned to the other teams, noticing the longing gazes from the other girls, even the usually stoic Shoko. Alright, let's start with the first team being. These guys. All Might announced dramatically, pulling his hands from two yellow boxes labeled Heroes and Villains. Team A as the heroes and Team D as the villains. Upon hearing this, Bakugo shot a vicious smirk at Tenko, Izuku, who simply smiled back. This is going to be fun, they both thought. Izuku felt a wave of curiosity about how much Bakugo had improved. Perhaps it was due to his cat-like DNA, but he shrugged it off. All Might instructed everyone except the teams to head to the observation room while the villain team entered the building. The heroes had 5 minutes to strategize before the match began. All Might assured them he would stop the match if it became too intense, receiving a "yes sir" from Ida and Uraraka, while Bakugo merely grunted. Izuku quickly began brainstorming a strategy, keeping an eye on his teammate. Tenko pondered all the possible ways to end this. What now, Miss Uraraka? He asked, noticing her in her hero suit, which made him blush slightly. Inside, his instincts were racing. Well, I was wondering if we could use a strategy I've been thinking about, Ochaco replied, her determination shining through. All right, let's hear it, Tenko encouraged, happy to see her enthusiasm. Meanwhile, in the observation room, All Might and the other students gathered around the monitors, eager to watch the match. As it began, they saw Tenko holding Ochaco in a bridal carry, causing envy among the girls. They jumped towards the 4th-floor window, where Ida and Bakugo were arguing. Back in the building, Tenko and Ochaco waited on the 4th floor. When you told me the bombs were on the 5th floor and that Bakugo wouldn't be working well with Ida, we might have a chance, Ochaco said. Interesting. But what about Bakugo? He's a strong fighter and shouldn't be taken lightly, Tenko replied. Ochaco thought for a moment. Will you be able to handle Bakugo while I deal with Ida, sensei? Tenko considered her words and nodded. They discussed possible scenarios for their plan, and Ochaco headed to the 5th floor to confront Ida as Tenko prepared to face Bakugo. Hearing explosions from the 3rd floor, Tenko grinned beneath his mask. Why don't I welcome him? He said, a hint of mischief in his voice. Meanwhile, Bakugo was growing frustrated, searching the ground floor. "A minute, are they already on the 5th floor?" he cursed. Suddenly he dodged a surprise attack from Tenko, who stood before him, eyes glowing ominously. "I must say, your reaction time is impressive, Mr. Bakugo. I hope to get a good warm-up from you," Tenko remarked. Bakugo, infuriated, launched a right hook, relying on his speed to take Tenko down. There's no way he can avoid this, he thought. But luck was not on his side. Tenko grabbed his arm and judo slammed him to the ground, creating distance between them. Shocked, Bakugo exclaimed, how did he read my moves?" Tenko smiled, triggering a memory from Bakugo's childhood with Izuku before he had his quirk. "Why am I remembering that now?" Bakugo grunted in frustration but focused on Tenko. Tenko took a stance, ready for quick speed and strength. Without hesitation, he charged at Bakugo, who used his explosions to dodge the punch. However, Tenko swiftly kicked Bakugo's ribs, pushing him back. Bakugo grimaced, glaring at Tenko, who removed his mask to reveal a confident smirk. "Is he looking down on me?" Bakugo thought, anger boiling inside him. In a burst of speed, Bakugo charged at Tenko. Just as Tenko prepared to punch, Bakugo altered his trajectory mid-air, firing a blast at Tenko's back. Tenko winced but smiled inwardly. "Well done, Bakugo. I'm seeing some improvement since middle school," Tenko acknowledged. Bakugo, grinning fiercely, retorted, "You see, that's what you get for looking down on me." Izuku sighed, realizing Bakugo's pride needed to be tempered. Using echolocation, he checked on Ochaco, who seemed to be handling her situation well. "Mr. Bakugo, you should know something," Tenko said, vanishing from sight. Bakugo's alertness spiked, but he was caught off guard when Tenko reappeared, pinning him down with his arms restrained. "Even if you have a strong quirk, there will always be someone stronger than you. Think about toning that pride of yours," Tenko warned, tightening his grip on Bakugo's arms. Bakugo winced, feeling immobilized. What did you do?" he stammered, watching as Tenko walked away with a smile. "Tenko, Izuku, I've temporarily disabled a nerve that will make it hard for you to move, but don't worry, you'll be back on your feet soon. Just hang in there, okay?" Just as Izuku was about to leave, Tenko added, "Oh, and about your pride. One day it might lead you into trouble." His serious tone caught Bakugo off guard, leaving him with a look of concern as Tenko walked away, leaving Bakugo to ponder his words. Bakugo thought, why did his eyes look so pained? I can't shake this feeling that we've known each other. Just who are you, Kitsune-sensei? Meanwhile, Ochaco quickly formulated a plan after noticing Ida getting distracted by the announcement of Bakugo's capture, allowing her to reach the bomb and secure victory for the heroes. With the match concluded, Ochaco and Ida moved ahead, with Tenko following closely behind, supporting Bakugo, who struggled to move. Tenko chuckled softly, apologizing to Bakugo for what he had done. Bakugo replied, "Don't worry about it," the only words he could muster as he looked at Tenko. Seriously, just who is he? Izuku's POV. With the conclusion of the first match, I found myself surrounded by a flurry of questions about my performance. While the other matches continued, I focused on jotting down my observations about the students and their quirks, aiming to help them improve for their future as pro heroes. Many of the students who had finished their matches glanced my way, but I simply smiled at them, concentrating on my notebook and gathering as much information as possible to share with Nedzu. Despite my focus, I could feel Bakugo's gaze on me as well as All Might's. Whenever I looked up, they quickly turned their heads, pretending they hadn't been watching. I shook my head at their antics. After the matches, amidst some constructive criticism from my classmates, All Might decided it was time to leave. All Might, I see greatness in all of you. Thank you, young Kitsune, for participating in one of the matches. Now watch as your hero departs with somewhere to be. With that, he dashed away, leaving some students in awe, which made me chuckle a bit. Maybe I can try to be on good terms with him, I thought to myself. Once combat training wrapped up, the students headed to the locker rooms to change. I decided to have a chat with Nedzu and enjoy our usual chess and tea time. To pass the time, I thought it would be a good idea to blow off some steam by visiting the first-year classes. I started with Class 1B, finding them quite similar to Class 1A, but they were friendly and welcoming. Even Blood King turned out to be a great addition to the mix. From there, I moved on to the other classes, offering encouragement that their quirks were amazing, regardless of what others might have said. This led them to look at me with admiration, almost as if I were an angel in their eyes, which made me feel a bit uneasy. As I finished up with the last class, I noticed that many of the girls were giving me looks that made me sweat a little. After some time with the other students, I found myself in front of Nedzu's office. I knocked on the door and heard a cheerful, "Come in." Upon opening the door, I was greeted by All Might, though he was in his smaller form, alongside Nedzu, who was smiling at me. All Might looked shocked, which left me momentarily speechless. "Izuku, Nedzu, what's going on?" Nedzu replied, "Ah, it's nice to see you, Kitsune. Why don't you close the door and lock it? We might be here for a while." I complied, my pupils narrowing slightly as I turned to face the two adults. "Izuku, is there something important that you needed to discuss with someone like me?" Nedzu just smiled at me, and I turned my attention to All Might, who stepped closer. I narrowed my eyes, feeling a mix of confusion and surprise when I saw All Might kneeling before me, his head bowed. "Tashinori, young Midoriya, I know you harbor resentment towards me because of your mother's loss. I'm truly sorry for saying you couldn't be a hero, and I regret how you were treated. Hearing about your past fills me with guilt, and I hope you can forgive me." His words were sincere, and I realized that my next response could change everything. "Izuku, please, stand up, All Might." When he raised his head, he saw me smiling genuinely, without my usual persona. "Izuku, I understand that what you said before wasn't meant to hurt me. Seeing you like this shows that I can trust you, so, All Might, you're forgiven." His eyes filled with tears, and I could see a weight lifting from his chest. "Tashinori, thank you, young Midoriya." I nodded and then turned to Nedzu. "Izuku, so, was this what you wanted when you let me become a teacher?" Nedzu replied, "Not exactly, but at least you have another ally if things go south, right?" "Izuku, even if I'm technically a killer?" Nedzu chuckled. "Who said you were? You have the evidence to take down those who overstep their bounds." I smiled at that and then looked back at All Might. "Izuku, maybe that can work." I approached All Might wanting to test my theory. "Izuku, Tashinori, I'm going to try to heal your wound, all right?" He nodded, unable to speak, and even Nedzu remained silent, eager to see what would happen. This would require all my concentration. I clenched my fists and focused on the image of what I needed. I needed this transformation to succeed, so I concentrated deeply. Suddenly, a bright light enveloped me, warm and peaceful, filling me with the knowledge and power I sought. The light also affected Tashinori and Nedzu, causing them to shield their eyes. Once the light dimmed, they opened their eyes and looked at me in awe. I had transformed, wearing long dark green pants and a lighter green yukata over a black undershirt. My hair, once green, was now blonde and flowed below my shoulders, and my eyes had turned a light azure. Most striking were my elongated ears, revealing my new elven form. "Izuku, let's get this over with. I won't be able to hold this transformation for long." I said it with a flat tone and walked towards Tashinori, placing my right hand on his injured side. Light particles formed around my hand as I concentrated, sweat forming on my forehead and my breathing becoming shaky, but I pressed on. After about 10 minutes, I stepped back, my legs trembling slightly. "Izuku, so, how do you feel?" Tashinori transformed into his muscular form, a large smile spreading across his face. "All Might, I feel great. Thank you so much, young one." I gave him a thumbs up, but then dropped to my knees, fatigue washing over me. Coughing slightly surprised me, and I felt Tashinori and Nedzu rush to my side, concern etched on their faces. "Tashinori, young Midoriya, are you all right?" He reverted to his smaller form, looking much healthier, and I managed to smile. "Izuku, don't worry, I'm fine. It seems I might not be able to use that form for a while." With Tashinori's help, I stood up, taking a deep breath. "Izuku, now you can do your hero work more often, but remember to take it easy, all right?" Tashinori nodded, smiling back at me. As I checked the time and realized it was getting late, I decided to leave. Just before I stepped out, flames began to envelop me for a moment, and then I was gone. It didn't take long to exit the school, and I received a text from Ochaco saying she had already left, which relieved me. I looked up at the sky, noticing it was turning dark, and my eyes briefly transformed into slits. Izuku, I did say I'd see if there are these so-called villains in the shadows. Maybe I'll spot one or two. Once the sky was completely dark, I decided to keep my transformation minimal for now and walked the streets, wearing a hoodie to conceal my eyes. Izuku's POV. I looked down at my fifth target of the night, feeling a mix of determination and regret. Before he could finish his plea, I swiftly wrapped a tentacle around his neck, ending the confrontation. Using my phoenix flames, I reduced the body to ashes, ensuring there was no trace left behind. With that task completed, I leaped high into the air, landing on a tall building. I took a moment to admire the city lights while staying out of sight from any patrolling heroes. Just then, an explosion erupted from a nearby building, drawing my attention. With my hoodie pulled low over my face, I crouched down, partially transforming my legs into those of a cheetah and sharpening my vision. I leaped off the building, ready to respond. Nobody's POV. Firefighters and 2 pro heroes were on the scene of the burning building, working tirelessly to evacuate as many people as possible. One civilian, a mother, was desperately trying to break free from a hero's grip, tears streaming down her face. "Please, you have to get my baby out of there," she cried, her voice filled with anguish. Hawks, one of the heroes, held her back, gritting his teeth at the thought of another victim still trapped inside. Mirko stood by, equally determined, but just as she was about to rush in, a blur shot past her. "Heroes these days," she muttered, her cheeks flushing as she recognized Izuku, his hood down, revealing his flowing hair. As he approached the building, he jumped through a window, flames scorching around him, but he pressed on undeterred. Meanwhile, inside the building, Izuku's POV. The flames licked at my skin as I entered, but I focused on my mission. Channeling my phoenix abilities, I quickly located what I was searching for. Outside the building, the heroes and civilians waited anxiously, the mother praying for her child's safety. Suddenly, the building erupted in flames, causing everyone to recoil in fear. The mother cried out, fearing the worst, but hope flickered within her. Just then, a stream of intense heat shot up into the sky, capturing everyone's attention. When it subsided, I emerged in my phoenix form, wings of flames spread wide, my hair flowing behind me. The mother rushed toward me, tears of joy streaming down her face as I cradled her daughter in my arms. The baby smiled, reaching for a strand of my hair. I lowered my flames and smiled back, conjuring flowers from my flames to delight her. "Thank you so much for rescuing my daughter," the mother said, her voice filled with gratitude. I nodded, stepping back to give her space. "Happy to help," I replied, glancing over at Mirko and smiling. I began to leave, but Hawks followed me until Mirko stopped him, insisting she would pursue me instead. This made me smile even more as I shifted out of my phoenix form, and the chase began. It didn't take long for Mirko and me to find a moment of respite on a tall building, avoiding other heroes and distractions. "So, are you going to try and take me in, little bunny?" I teased, noticing her cheeks flush and her rabbit ears twitch. "Don't get the wrong idea. I just thought maybe," she stammered, her embarrassment making her even cuter. I stepped closer, sensing her hesitation to fight. Gently, I lifted her chin with my hand, drawing her closer to me. "Are you saying you have feelings for a villain, little bunny?" I asked, my voice low. She couldn't respond, her eyes growing hazy as we shared a moment, embracing each other. The tension between us was palpable, and I could sense that things were about to become even more complicated. Izuku's POV. I was sleeping peacefully, enjoying the feeling of something soft in my hand until I heard a soft sound. I opened my eyes to find myself in an unfamiliar place. "Geez, kid, you're so touchy," a voice said. I looked down to see the rabbit hero, Miruko, resting on my chest, her smile a mix of cute and charming. As I realized my hand was resting on her waist, I quickly met her gaze. "Sorry about that, you're just so soft to cuddle with," I said, pulling her closer, which made her blush slightly. "Honestly, the fact that I'm here with you is a surprise," she replied. Well, we were in a heated moment, so it just happened. You're lucky you're not PRNT, otherwise, that would be a problem, I said, trying to lighten the mood. She playfully shifted above me, her confidence shining through. I wouldn't mind having your kids, she teased. I felt my cheeks heat up, about to respond when my phone rang. I glanced at the screen and felt a wave of panic wash over me. It was Himiko. I quickly flipped Miruko and positioned myself on top of her to buy myself some time to answer. Hello, I said, trying to sound calm. Izuku, where are you? You've got me and Ochaco worried after you helped her class and did your thing last night. Himiko exclaimed. I sighed, feeling the heat rising again as Miruko playfully distracted me. Well, I started, but before I could finish, Miruko playfully pushed me back down on the bed, snatching my phone. My heart raced and I struggled to focus on the call. You might want to call back some other time, okay? Miruko said with a teasing tone. Himiko, I tried to explain, but she cut me off. Izuku, you better explain, she said before hanging up. I sighed, looking at Miruko, who wore a mischievous smirk. Ready for another round, beastie? She asked playfully. I couldn't help but smirk back, showing my determination. Don't underestimate me, little bunny. And with that, we continued our playful banter. Time skip. I sighed as I walked toward UA in my Tenko persona, rubbing my eyes from the amazing time I had with Rumi e Miruko. It was truly unforgettable. Shaking my head to clear my thoughts, I approached the school only to be met by a swarm of reporters at the gate, all clamoring for an interview with All Might. I couldn't help but chuckle at the thought of him dealing with this chaos. Using my keen sense of smell, I realized he wasn't there yet. Must be running late, I murmured to myself, thinking about how he no longer felt pain when transforming into his hero form. Excuse me, can we ask a couple of questions? Suddenly, I found myself surrounded by reporters, microphones move in my face, and tape recorders trying to capture my every word. They bombarded me with questions about All Might as a teacher, which was frustrating. Just as I was about to lose my patience, Aizawa swooped in and pulled me away. Thanks for that, Aizawa, I said, relieved. Don't mention it. I'll be here for a while, so I want you to head to Class 1A and let them decide who will be the class representative while I handle these reporters, he instructed. I nodded and made my way inside the school. Suddenly, I caught a familiar scent that triggered a hazy memory. I held my head for a moment, trying to focus on the image of a young boy, but his face remained blurry. I don't know what that was, but it must mean something, I thought, shaking my head as I entered the school. Little did I know, a hooded figure in the crowd of reporters was smiling, ready to stir up trouble. As I walked toward Class 1A, I spotted Ochaco and quickened my pace. Miss Uraraka, good morning. I greeted her cheerfully. She shot me an annoyed look while pouting and continued on her way to class. I sighed, finding her adorable even as I braced myself for the challenges ahead. Meanwhile, in Class 1A, the students were buzzing about the recent combat training. Kirishima was enthusiastically proclaiming how manly Kitsune-sensei was, and others were nodding in agreement, while a few remained silent but in agreement. It wasn't long before I entered the classroom, flashing my best smile. Good morning, everyone, I called out. Good morning, sensei, they replied in unison. Now that you're all settled, I'd like to make an announcement from Aizawa-sensei regarding homeroom business, I said, adopting a serious tone that put the students on edge. I'll have you all take another special test, they exclaimed in unison, their eyes wide with anticipation. I couldn't help but smile brightly. No, you'll decide on a class representative. The room erupted with excitement as students began vying for the title, each presenting their reasons for wanting to be class representative. Everyone, silence, Ida called out, commanding attention. Once the room quieted, I watched him with curiosity, intrigued by how he would handle the situation. This is a job with serious responsibility. It requires the trust of those around you. If we want to use democracy to choose a true leader, we should hold an election, he stated firmly. I nodded at Ida's idea, almost laughing as I saw him raise his hand to nominate himself. The other students voiced their opinions, some finding the idea a bit unorthodox since they didn't know each other well. If that person receives the most votes, then they are suitable for the job, don't you agree, sensei? Ida asked, looking at me. I couldn't agree more, Mr. Ida. Now, be prepared to vote for your class president, I replied. The votes were cast, and soon I had the results. Okay, let's see who has the most votes. I began, only to be taken aback by the outcome. What in the world? I exclaimed, surprised by the list. Tenko Kitsune, 6 votes. Momo Yaoyorozu, 2 votes. The others received 1 vote or none. I scanned the classroom, noticing Ochaco whistling, realizing she was one of my voters, but I couldn't tell who else had voted for me. Well, it's a surprise to see that 6 people voted for me to be class president, I said, eliciting shocked expressions from my classmates. However, I'll appoint Momo Yaoyorozu as vice president, I announced, and she stood up, blushing as she walked to the front of the class. Kaminari chimed in, well, I'm not sure how this will work. I smiled at him. I'm sure it won't be perfect, but I appreciate how you all view me as your classmate. However, as your teacher, I'd like to pass the position to Tenya Ida. His eyes widened in shock. I understand you all chose me, but it's better to have someone closer to your age lead while I'm not around, okay? I said, smiling as the students looked at me with admiration. With that settled, Aizawa entered, greeted the class, and promptly wrapped himself in his sleeping bag, causing everyone to sweat drop while I chuckled. At lunchtime, I was about to grab a tray when I was unexpectedly pushed against a wall. Confused, I turned to see Ochaco glaring at me. Is there something wrong, Miss Uraraka? I asked, trying to keep my tone light. You deserve to be out of the house, idiot, she whispered, making sure no one else could hear, but drawing the attention of those around us. I smirked. Is that supposed to intimidate me? Well, it's supposed to make you feel threatened, she replied, stepping closer, her eyes narrowing. Well, it doesn't, I said confidently. She leaned in even closer and I felt my heart race. What do you feel? She challenged. I couldn't help but smirk wider, my eyes gleaming with mischief. Just a little excitement, I teased. This made her blush, and I decided to wrap my arm around her as we balanced our trays of food, drawing shocked looks from students across the cafeteria, especially from the girls who shot her jealous glances. And with that, the day continued, filled with unexpected twists and turns. Then stay safe and peace out chapter end nobody's POV. It's still lunchtime, and we see Izuku in his Tenko persona sitting with some of the students of Class 1A, a smile on his face. The reason for his happiness is that Ochaco hasn't let go of him since the whole intimidation incident, and she's still blushing, which has drawn jealous glances from the other female students, making him sweat a little. He gently nudges Ochaco off him so they can enjoy the lunch they're sharing. While the other students chat about classes, Izuku's attention drifts to Minoru Mineta, who is sitting alone. Izuku knows Mineta has potential, but his perverted tendencies are holding him back, so he decides to intervene. He approaches Mineta's table, his stomach full, and sits next to him, causing Mineta to jump. Is there a reason you're sitting here all alone, Mr. Mineta? Izuku asks. Mineta sighs, taking a bite of his lunch. Maybe because I'm a disgusting pervert and should just drop out of UA. Izuku sighs at this. That's troubling, he replies, placing a hand on Mineta's shoulder. Mineta looks up to see Izuku's encouraging smile. Most people have their moments, but some learn to control it. I believe you can too because you're going to be a great hero. Hearing those words lifts Mineta's spirits, and he smiles back. Thanks, sensei. Izuku stays to chat with him, leaving the other Class 1A students curious. Suddenly, an alarm blares, causing the students to jump up and rush around in a panic. Izuku narrows his eyes as he looks out the window and sees reporters trying to get in. He turns to see Ida in the air, urging everyone to calm down and line up orderly, which brings Izuku some relief. As the students settle down, Izuku catches an unfamiliar scent and decides to follow it. We see Aizawa and Izuku at the front of the class, Aizawa announcing a field trip focused on rescue work. The class buzzes with excitement, sharing their thoughts on the matter. Meanwhile, Izuku is preoccupied with doubts about the rescue training, particularly regarding who set off the alarm during lunch. He suspects it was Shigaraki, but he couldn't capture him due to a warp gate user. Aizawa continues, "You can wear your hero costumes or your tracksuits, I don't mind. This will involve me, All Might, and another staff member." Ida raises his hand. "Sensei, isn't Kitsune-sensei coming with us?" The students turn to Izuku for an answer. Kitsune responds, "The reason I'm not going is that the principal and I have some unfinished business to attend to, so I need to handle that quickly." With that, the students resume preparing for the trip. Izuku heads towards Nedzu's office, but as he steps out the door, he's stopped by Ochaco. Izuku's POV, I see Ochaco giving me a look, and I sigh. I lean down to give her a quick kiss on the forehead and smile. "I'll see you after training, okay?" I leave before she can respond, feeling a sense of unease wash over me. It doesn't take long to reach Nedzu's office, though it feels like I've been walking for ages. "Come in," Nedzu calls. I open the door and step inside. "Well now, Mr. Kitsune, to what do I owe the pleasure?" Nedzu asks, glancing up from his computer. I shift out of my persona, my clothes feeling baggier as I cough lightly. Nedzu quickly comes to my aid, guiding me to a chair that can transform into a bed. "I would say we should discuss information on those dangerous villains, but I just need to rest a bit, if you don't mind." Nedzu nods and uses the flames of the phoenix to help heal me a little while searching for emergency clothes I had left in his office. I change into a skin-tight black bodysuit with a hood, leaving my hands exposed, and I put on black combat boots. With my new outfit, I sit in front of Nedzu. "You're wondering if I found any leads on major villains?" "That and possibly any Yakuza," I reply. Nedzu sighs, placing a chessboard and a pot of tea with 2 cups on the table. He pours us both a cup, and I take a sip, feeling more at ease. I would say I'm having a hard time finding them. As he sets down his cup and moves a piece on the chessboard, I respond, "I understand. With All Might being the symbol of peace, the criminals are trying to lay low, which puts me on edge." Nedzu nods. "With you here, I think they're more afraid of you than All Might, given your reputation and how you show compassion to the innocent." I nod in agreement as he moves another piece. After about 3 hours of playing chess, we find ourselves in a stalemate, both enjoying our tea. All Might enters, catching me off guard. "Tashinori, I thought you were supposed to be with Class 1A at USJ?" I ask. "Well, yes, but I kind of took advantage of the situation and ended up stopping some criminals." He chuckles, scratching the back of his head. I can't help but smile at his casual demeanor, and Nedzu does the same. "Young Midoriya, do you mind if I ask you something?" Tashinori asks, his tone becoming serious. "Sure," I reply, feeling a bit uneasy. Tashinori steps closer, his expression intense. "Young Midoriya, please, I need to know." Before he can finish, I interject. "If you're trying to confess something, just know I'm straight." Both Tashinori and Nedzu look at me, surprised. "No, not like that," Tashinori exclaims, which makes me laugh at his reaction. "What I meant to say is, are you willing to accept my quirk? I know you like to analyze quirks." As he says this, I look down, contemplating the offer. Suddenly, my eyes flash bright red, and my pupils narrow. Izuku's eyes narrowed as he sensed something was wrong. "Wait a second," he said, turning to Nedzu. "Midoriya is something. Just wait." Izuku interrupted, rushing to the window. He opened it wide, and a familiar scent filled the air. Then he heard it, a voice calling out, "Izuku, please help." His expression darkened, teeth clenched in determination. "All Might will talk about your quirk later," he said, his voice steady but filled with urgency. Before anyone could respond, he turned sharply, his anger palpable. "I'm heading to USJ. Something's about to happen that will lead to chaos." With that, he leaped from the window, wings forming on his back as he soared into the sky. This feeling, it's just like when I first transformed into a phoenix. Whatever it is, I hope it helps me in the long run. Izuku's POV, the anger coursing through me intensified at the sound of Ochaco's frightened voice. I had to get to her quickly. Following her scent was easy, But I also detected Ida's presence heading toward UA, which put me on high alert. Young Midoriya. All Might's voice broke through my thoughts. I turned to see him by my side. Tashinori, you know I can't back down. I'm going to confront those villains, I replied calmly. I know, he said. But you need to leave when the other heroes arrive. I saw young Ida heading to UA. I nodded, and we both increased our speed, my determination evident as I felt blood at the corner of my mouth. When we reached the USJ building, All Might wasted no time, bursting through the door and creating a cloud of smoke. The students inside looked relieved to see him. There's no need to fear, because we are here. His usual smile was replaced by a fierce expression, and the students understood the gravity of the situation when I rushed in, focusing on Tsuyu, Mineta, and Aizawa. I transformed my legs into those of a cheetah, gaining speed as I bypassed the low-level villains. Using tentacles that sprouted from my back, I pushed Shigaraki aside and leaped, transforming my right leg into a minotaur's to knock back a large creature with a bird-like beak. This gave me the chance to grab Aizawa, Tsuyu, and Mineta, surprising them with my sudden appearance. I laid Tsuyu and Mineta gently on the ground, placing Aizawa down carefully. My tentacles moved slowly, and the intensity of my expression put everyone, including All Might, on edge. My eyes glowed a vibrant green, and I exhaled, forming wisps of smoke. A chilling laugh escaped me, one that echoed with a hint of madness. I glanced at All Might, who understood what was coming. All Might, it's your call, I said, waiting for his response. He nodded, and I could see the concern on the students' faces, especially Ochaco's. All Might, you can't be serious? The students exclaimed. I know this may seem extreme, I said, my voice low and intense, but these villains will stop at nothing to harm you future heroes. My eyes turned a fierce red, radiating my anger and protective instincts. They will pay for what they've done. Ochaco looked at me, understanding the path I was about to take. I knew that if she witnessed my actions again, she might despise me, but I couldn't let them escape after what they did to her and the others. They would not survive this. I turned to All Might. Don't interfere. If you do, I won't distinguish between friend and foe. My mind blanked, consumed by the singular desire to confront them. I dashed forward, and the villains laughed, unaware of who I was. I wouldn't let them continue. My tentacles transformed, sharp and deadly, as I moved with blinding speed, cutting through the villains in my path. I reveled in their cries, the sound of their fear a twisted melody that filled me with satisfaction. With the last villain defeated under my foot, I surveyed the remaining foes, Shigaraki, the Warp Gate villain, and a creature Shigaraki had mentioned before. Nomu, I growled, feeling a surge of anger. This creature dared to invade my territory and threaten those I considered family. Shigaraki smirked, a look that brought back a hazy memory of a boy from my past. Well, this is a surprise, Shigaraki said. I'm shocked to see you, Izuku. After all, you still have a goal to become our pet. But how does it feel to unleash your anger on these poor fools? I responded with a snarl, transforming into a werewolf, baring my fangs. I didn't have to do this since the master wants you alive, Shigaraki continued, but this will be interesting. Nomu's potential against you before we deal with All Might. I dropped to all fours, feeling a familiar darkness envelop me, images of fire and unknown faces flashing through my mind. I growled and charged forward. Nomu, go have fun with our little pet. Shigaraki commanded, and the creature screeched, racing toward me. My rage ignited. I'll show you why you never mess with me. I'll make you pay for what you did to my mother. My claws extended, and my mind was filled with fury. In the depths of my consciousness, I saw my younger self alongside another boy, both of us locked in a silent understanding. Shigaraki, you feel familiar. If I know you, then I need to find out who your master is so I can bring him down. This feeling, these warm flames, felt like they were about to consume me. I wanted to be released. I wanted to change me. Those were the thoughts racing through my mind as I blocked the Nomu's punches, all while All Might desperately tried to help. He knew he couldn't intervene. He had promised not to get involved. I couldn't let him do that. If he tried to help and something happened to him, I wouldn't forgive myself. The battle with the Nomu was exhausting, even in my werewolf form. Staying in this persona for so long was draining, but I couldn't show it. Suddenly, a punch to my chest ignited my anger. I dodged another blow and countered with a powerful strike to the Nomu's face and chest, pushing it back. I spat out a bit of blood and transformed into a rhino, charging at the creature. But it lifted me up and hurled me to the ground, causing me to revert to my human form. I coughed out more blood, reminding myself not to use my phoenix flames to heal, otherwise I might lose consciousness. I glanced at All Might, who was struggling to maintain his position. My senses were disoriented, leading to a hard kick to my gut that broke a few ribs. I crashed against the wall, leaving a large web pattern with blood splattered around. Shigaraki laughed, finding amusement in my pain as blood trickled down my face. Well, this has been fun, but I don't want you to die just yet since you're still needed. Nomu, give our friend a powerful punch. I looked up, my body in agony, muscles spasming, but I felt a surge of strength rising within me. Do your worst. I managed to chuckle defiantly. But the punch never came. The Nomu was suddenly knocked back by none other than All Might, his expression unreadable. Are you all right, young Midoriya? He asked. I coughed up blood and staggered to my feet. I thought I told you not to interfere. He chuckled softly. You and I are quite similar. We don't like to wait and just need to get things done. I couldn't let you die in front of me or the students. I sighed and smiled slightly, turning to see the Noma back on its feet, screeching and charging toward us. Fine, I'll let you help, but you better not slow me down, old man. He laughed heartily. I should say the same to you. With that, we moved in sync, rushing after the Nomu. My wounds were healing at a slower rate, but I didn't care. All Might and I needed to take this creature down as quickly as possible. I could still feel a heat building within me, shaping into a power greater than my previous transformations. I needed to exercise it, otherwise, this could be my downfall, even with All Might by my side. To be continued. The sounds of punches, grunts, and shouts filled the air as three powerful beings clashed well, in the case of the Nomu, a bioengineered creature. It seemed unfazed by the strength that All Might and I were exerting. I transformed my right arm into a mix between a minotaur and a gorilla and punched the Nomu in the chest, pushing it back to create some space. I signaled to All Might, who charged at the Nomu with full force. Carolina Smash, he shouted, executing a devastating smash with both arms crossed in an X. A powerful gust of wind erupted, causing damage, but it seemed to have little effect on the Nomu, leaving All Might shocked. Shigaraki laughed, taunting us about the Nomu's powers, which prompted All Might to perform a German suplex, stirring up dust. I spat out a bit of blood, narrowing my eyes as I saw All Might caught in the Nomu's grip, being crushed. Hey, now this is a bit uncomfortable, All Might remarked. Kurogyri, the villain, seemed to relish the chaos. While I dislike the sight of guts spilling through my portals, I'll make an exception for you, number one hero. But Kurogyri and Shigaraki had forgotten about me. I unleashed a ground-shaking quake that caused cracks to form beneath All Might and the Nomu, giving All Might a chance to escape. In the next moment, a large chunk of ice formed around the Nomu, and an explosion sent Kurogyri flying. I spotted Bakugo, who was holding Kurogyri down with what appeared to be a metal bracer. I felt no animosity toward Bakugo despite our past conflicts. Instead, I was filled with confusion. Why does Katsuki smell different all of a sudden? I wondered. I shook off that thought, focusing on the battle. I noticed Shigaraki scratching his neck vigorously. This isn't what I wanted. Nomu, help out our friend, he commanded. The Nomu broke free from the ice, its limbs torn off, only to grow new ones and rush after Bakugo. I acted without thinking, and the ensuing chaos created a thick cloud of smoke that pushed All Might, Kirishima, Todoroki, and the two villains back. Kirishima turned to Bakugo. Dude, when did you get here so fast? But Bakugo couldn't respond. He was staring straight ahead, his expression tense. Kirishima looked ahead and paled at the sight before him. I felt a hole tearing in my chest, questioning why I had moved Bakugo out of harm's way. Was it out of obligation after everything that had happened, or was it simply the right thing to do? Darkness enveloped me, and I couldn't move after the Nomu threw me, sending me crashing into a large crater. My breath was nearly gone. Hearing All Might call out to me, and even my beloved Ochaco's cries, I felt an overwhelming sense of weakness. My heart began to race, thumping loudly in my chest. Suddenly, I heard the voice of someone who had caused me pain, calling my name. It was my former bully, tears flowing down his face. My heart pounded even faster, heat coursing through my body. A bright light appeared before me, beckoning me forward until I heard a powerful voice say, "Izuku Midoriya, you've endured so much. Now, it's time to break free from your shackles and unleash your true power." Roar! In that moment, something inside me snapped. My eyes flew open, and I let out a roar that shook the very foundations of the USJ building. My power had finally been unleashed, though it felt unstable. I rose from the crater, and I could see All Might sighing in relief. Ochaco's joyful cries echoed around me, and I noticed Bakugo looking at me with an expression that was different from his usual rage. There was happiness in his eyes. But when I turned to Shigaraki, a distant memory surfaced, one that included older figures and my mother, overshadowed by an unending rage. The intensity of my roar sent tremors throughout the building, leaving everyone pale as they felt the raw emotion of pain, rage, and even hatred. The heat radiating from me caused those nearby to step back, but it wasn't enough to shield them from the overwhelming force. Then, silence fell, and smoke began to form. Within it, a silhouette emerged, and as the smoke cleared, Shigaraki felt a long-forgotten sensation: fear. Before him stood what could only be described as a devil. My transformation was striking. I now stood at 6 feet 5 inches tall, with scales adorning my forearms, upper body, neck, and chin. My teeth were sharp, and my eyes had taken on a bright green, slitted appearance. My face was serious, my hair long and flowing down my back, and new wings sprouted from my back, colored in red and black, steam rising from them. I wore only tattered pants, and as I clenched my clawed hands, I turned my gaze to the trembling Nomu, a smirk forming on my lips. "Oh, so now you have common sense. Well, too bad." Flames began to surround him as he launched himself toward his opponent. Izuku shouted, "I'm not letting you go until I've defeated you." His voice was filled with rage as he charged forward. "Now it's time for me to finally finish this. I hope you enjoy this long-awaited chapter of Izuku and the Animals. Stay safe, stay healthy, and peace out." Chapter end. Nobody's POV. The fight between Nomu and Izuku was intensifying, with Izuku's fists ignited and his face reflecting his fury, his eyes glowing white as he pursued the Nomu relentlessly. Izuku declared, "I'm going to take you down until you can't recover." His determination was palpable as he pressed on. After that, I started to cough, feeling a warm sensation trickle down my chin. I dipped my head down, trying to catch my breath. Shigaraki was scratching his neck in irritation, mumbling that this wasn't supposed to happen. Anger surged through him as he rushed after me, but All Might intervened, stopping Shigaraki in his tracks. Suddenly, All Might was struck in the legs and arms, surprise etched on his face as he turned toward the now open door. There stood Tenya and all the pros from UA. When most of the teachers discovered the scattered bodies of the villains, they turned to see me without my dragon scales, cuts marking my skin. I ignored their concerned gazes and focused on Shigaraki. When our eyes met, I was flooded with a vision of us together, 2 children holding hands while sleeping, both in UA, yet on opposite sides. The sound of shattering glass snapped me back to reality. I watched as Shigaraki and the Mist Man made their escape. But my fight wasn't over. I had to face the pros, those I had formed close bonds with. I looked at All Might. "I have to go." All Might and, "I'm sorry, I can't accept it," I said, my voice heavy with emotion. All Might nodded, understanding my unspoken words. Gathering what strength I had left, I narrowly dodged a tranquilizer dart shot by the sharpshooter snipe. I created some distance and let out a powerful roar, my eyes glowing bright green. Aha, ah. The heroes and students shielded their eyes from the dust cloud until it settled. When they finally saw me, fear washed over them. Though another hero possessed a dragon-type quirk, her size paled in comparison to mine. Standing on all fours, I towered at about 85 feet, my wings spanning 75 feet from tip to tip. Rising on my hind legs made me even more imposing. I gazed down at them with my green slitted eyes, causing them to tremble. My eyes landed on Ochaco, who smiled at me. I exhaled, flapped my wings, and soared into the air, ripping the roof apart as I ascended into the sky. With the escape of Shigaraki, Kurogyari, and the now draconic Izuku, the pros were seen apprehending the villains who had somehow escaped from the chaos. They were being taken into custody by the pros and police, while paramedics ensured the students and teachers were okay. Netsu surveyed the destruction, sighing as he gazed at the gaping hole in the roof. "I hope you're doing okay, Midoriya," he thought, concern for the young hero heavy in his heart. He wasn't the only one thinking of him. Ochaco was doing the same, texting Himiko about the events that had unfolded, wondering how she could help him afterward. Little did she know, the explosive Bakugu was also thinking of Izuku. "Izuku," he muttered. Meanwhile, in an unknown bar, a portal opened, and Shigaraki stumbled out, blood staining his clothes. "In it," he groaned, collapsing to the floor, his body aching. He lamented the defeat of the Nomu and the loss of his subordinates at Izuku's hands. Frustration boiled within him as he cursed All Might for still being alive, angry that he couldn't witness All Might's downfall due to Izuku's interference. On a blank monitor, a mysterious figure spoke to him, assuring Shigaraki that he was not wrong, just overly optimistic. The figure inquired about the Nomu's whereabouts. Kurogyari regretfully informed him that he couldn't retrieve the Nomu because it had been destroyed by Izuku and his newfound transformation. The mysterious figure stated it was too late to mourn and that they needed to assemble a new group, handpicked for efficiency, emphasizing that they should take all the time they needed. The mysterious figure stated that Shigaraki was a symbol of significance and that next time, he would reveal the true horror of his existence. Shigaraki nodded and then asked, "Master, can you use a person's blood to create a being from that individual's essence?" The enigmatic master hummed in acknowledgement and confirmed that he could, prompting Shigaraki to smile. He instructed Kurogyari to bring forth the necessary materials. Kurogyari retrieved a vial and poured out a considerable amount of blood. "Well, Master, how about we create a human Nomu using the blood of Izuku Midoriya?" This suggestion intrigued the master, who smirked at the thought of finally having what he desired within his reach, a tear forming in his eyes. "I see you've outdone yourself, Tamura. Very well, I will inform the doctor, and this will be done as soon as possible. So, be patient." Shigaraki thanked his master, and the screen went dark. He turned to Kurogyari with a wicked grin. "Soon, everything will be within our grasp, and our old friend Midoriya will witness his downfall." He shook his head in confusion as a fleeting memory of himself and another person from his youth crossed his mind. What was that? Meanwhile, in a vast forest, Izuku, in his dragonoid form, lay resting, allowing the animals to gather around him as he enjoyed the cool breeze, reflecting on the vision he had. "The next time we meet, I need to know." Inside Izuku's mind, visions swirled around him, and he covered his head with his hands, tears forming in his eyes. "I'm sorry, please stop. I can't take it anymore." Suddenly, a shadowy figure appeared before him. As he looked up, removing his hands from his face, he saw the figure with bright red eyes gazing intently at him. "Your hatred, your despair, all of your intense emotions will surface even more, bringing forth a power you can use to win. But it could also destroy you. Your current abilities will be unstable, only those from a time long past will be available to you." What do you mean?" Izuku asked, but the figure did not respond. Just then, a mighty roar echoed, causing Izuku to scream in fright. Outside of Izuku's mind, in a new location, Miruko was gently brushing Izuku's hair in her apartment, accompanied by Ochaco, Himiko, and the now female Katsumi Bakugo. Katsumi was explaining her relationship with Izuku when suddenly, Izuku awoke, now transformed into a prehistoric creature and growling at them, causing the girls to back away in surprise at his imposing size. "What the heck?" Katsumi exclaimed. "I'm just as shocked as you are. This is the first time I've seen him like this." "Himiko, has this ever happened before?" Himiko shook her head, looking at Izuku with concern. Mirko cautiously approached him. "Please be careful," Ochaco warned. "Don't worry, I will," Mirko replied, inching closer. Izuku growled but then stopped, sniffing the air before allowing her hand to rest on his head. "Can you hear me, Izuku?" Mirko asked. In response, Izuku growled and playfully liked her face, making her smile. "It's all right, girls," she reassured them. Hearing this, Ochaco and Himiko approached, touching Izuku's fur and enjoying the moment. Katsumi gazed into Izuku's eyes, her heart racing. "Izuku, I know I've done a lot of things to you since we were younger. I hated myself for treating you poorly, and my pride made me an awful person. I know you still might hate me, but can we start over and become friends again? I hope you can forgive me." She looked down, fearing he would reject her, but suddenly felt something nuzzling against her. When she looked, it was Izuku, and she cried tears of joy, hugging his neck tightly while repeatedly thanking him. The others joined in for a group hug, and Izuku reveled in their affection. When the girls finally let go, realizing it was getting late, Katsumi said her goodbyes, waving as she left. Ochaco and Himiko decided to stay for the night and headed to the shower with Mirko. Izuku, content in his animal form, groomed himself, not feeling the need to revert to his human self just yet, and settled down for some much-needed rest. The next day, Izuku stretched as he walked, unconsciously transforming back into his human form, allowing the girls to see him as he was. They shared breakfast, courtesy of him, before heading out. Thankfully, he could still access his persona while Himiko and Mirko went to their jobs. He and Ochaco, along with the now female Katsumi Bakugu, who wore a female UA uniform, walked together. Izuku complimented her, saying she looked explosively breathtaking, causing her to blush. In Class 1A, the students were seated, their expressions a mix of shock and curiosity at Bakugu's new appearance and the reason behind her decision to present as female. Izuku, now Tenko, chuckled lightly, resting his hand on the teacher's desk while feeling a bit anxious. Aizawa entered, appearing well, prompting the students to inquire about his health. Izuku observed Aizawa closely, sensing the lingering distrust he held towards him, but he brushed it off. He was determined to ensure no innocent lives were lost for as long as he could help it. "I still need to do some reconnaissance, it's been a while. Maybe I should ask S if he wants to join. I hope he isn't too busy. I also need to check in with D to see if he's still going undercover. I haven't heard from him in a while. And I hope my surrogate little brother isn't missing me too much. I hope he's doing okay, even with his parents around. We haven't spoken since then." But Izuku had to shake off his thoughts and focus on the present. The battle raged on, each side clashing with fierce determination. The air was thick with tension as warriors fought valiantly, their movements a blur of skill and agility. The sound of swords clashing echoed through the battlefield, punctuated by shouts of courage and cries of challenge. In the midst of the chaos, two figures stood out, their eyes locked in a fierce rivalry. They exchanged blows, each strike filled with the weight of their shared history. The intensity of their duel was palpable, a dance of power and precision that captivated all who watched. As the fight continued, the ground beneath them trembled from the force of their combat. Dust and debris swirled around, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. The combatants pushed themselves to their limits, their breaths coming in quick bursts as they fought not just for victory, but for something deeper, a desire to prove themselves. With each passing moment, the stakes grew higher. The determination in their eyes spoke volumes, revealing the unyielding spirit that drove them forward. The battle was not just a test of strength, but a testament to their resolve and the bonds that had been forged through struggle. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the battlefield, the warriors prepared for the final clash. With one last surge of energy, they charged at each other, ready to determine the outcome of their fierce rivalry once and for all. Sports Festival. Izuku was excited to hear about it because he had 2 students in mind for some training. 2 young men were about to embark on a challenging journey. This statement from Izuku made the 2 boys shiver, sensing they were about to face a path filled with intense challenges. Chapter End. Izuku's POV. When Aizawa announced that the sports festival was approaching, some students questioned whether it was wise to proceed, given the recent villain's attack at USJ. Aizawa encouraged his students to use the special event to get noticed, as the country's top pro heroes would be watching. With that, he left, and I began to think about how to prepare my 2 new trainees. Looking around, I saw the students pumped up. Even Ochaco was shouting about doing her best for the class. I chuckled a bit, recalling my battle at USJ. Izuku, I could still feel the adrenaline from the encounter with that villain. Whatever they were planning might be good for me or bad. After the 4th PRD of modern literature ended, during lunch break, Ochaco, walking with Ida and me, expressed her desire to become a hero to earn money, admitting it was a selfish reason. Izuku, I realized I forgot to ask her that. Or maybe I did know and somehow forgot. Maybe I should look into that. However, Tenya argued that wanting to be a hero to make a living wasn't selfish at all. Ochaco then shared her family situation, explaining that they worked in construction but were struggling due to a lack of jobs. A flashback showed a young Ochaco asking her father if she could help with the family business, but he refused, wanting her to pursue her own dreams. The flashback ended. Ochaco declared that she would become a hero and earn money to improve her parents' lives. Both Izuku and Tenya found her goal admirable. Suddenly, a loud voice interrupted. Haha, young Kitsune is here. The sound of All Might's voice brought the others to a standstill while I raised my eyebrows. Tenko, Izuku, is there something you need, All Might? All Might, wanna have lunch with me? I nodded, turning my attention back to my students. Izuku, well, it seems I must be off. Enjoy your lunch, you too, and tell the others the same. I waved goodbye and turned my head to catch Ochaco's gaze, smirking at her, which made her blush slightly and pout in my direction. In the break room, All Might and I were enjoying our lunches, and he switched off his muscle form. Toshinori, I must say, young Midoriya, you really know how to make an impact during that incident. Izuku, I'm still getting used to my powers, but I'll manage. The thing is, he leaned forward. Izuku, ever since the incident, I've been unable to transform into my animal forms, only the mythical ones and those that are extinct. Toshinori looked shocked. Toshinori, maybe your power has a cooling system. The more emotion you release, the longer it takes for you to transform into the animals you're used to. Izuku, maybe that's it, but I'm not worried. I really want to try being one of those dinosaurs. Just thinking about it excites me. Toshinori laughed at my enthusiasm, causing me to blush a bit and cough. Izuku, anyway, this isn't just about that, is it? He nodded. Toshinori, to tell you the truth, I was surprised when you declined my offer. Izuku, you know I'm not suited for One for All. You've already explained how it works, and I appreciate it, but I just can't. You see me as someone who can be a great hero, but I already have a lot of darkness in my past. Izuku, it's better if you find someone else before your time as the symbol of peace comes to an end. Toshinori, you really are worthy, but I accept your decision. Now, let's talk about the sports festival. I'm sure you're thinking of helping a student, right? Izuku chuckles, well, you caught me. I'm actually going to work with 2 students, and I'm sure Nedzu will likely approve. Toshinori, let's hear it. At the end of the school day, Class 1A was getting ready to leave. I gathered my things and opened the door, only to be met by a group of first-year students. Upon seeing me, almost all the girls squealed. First-year girls. It's Kitsune-sensei. I laughed. Izuku, I'm glad to see you all so energetic for the sports festival. I know you're eager to see what Class 1A can do, but don't forget to prepare and give it your all. My words seemed to encourage them, and they headed home. Then I noticed Hitoshi Shinso looking at me. I smiled, and he walked away. I turned my attention to 2 specific students. Izuku, Minoru Mineta, and Denki Kaminari, I would like to talk to you too if you don't mind. The 2 of them grabbed their things and walked with me, leaving the rest of Class 1A confused. Pushing the Noma back, Izuku let out a roar that made the others cover their ears from the overwhelming sound. He was driven by instinct, pushing himself to the limit, wanting nothing more than to defeat the Nomu. Blow after blow, he could sense the Nomu's fear, yet it chose to fight rather than flee. It landed a hit on Izuku's face, followed by a flurry of punches to his upper body, finishing with a powerful strike that sent him skidding back, leaving drag marks on the ground. Izuku smiled, revealing his sharp teeth, his body surrounded by dancing flames. Cracks began to form in the ground beneath him as his scales shimmered in red and brown. Rocks gathered around his forearms and hands, forming 14-inch claws on each finger. "It's time to get serious," he said, his voice low and determined. At that moment, Shigaraki trembled in fear and shouted at the Nomu to finish him off. Both Izuku and the Nomu charged at each other, with the Nomu drawing blood from Izuku, splattering it close to Shigaraki. But Izuku was unfazed. All he wanted was to destroy. The sheer power of their clash pushed others back, forcing them to shield their eyes from the intense force. "Wow, these guys are insane. It's almost like All Might strength," Kirishima exclaimed. All Might narrowed his eyes, recognizing that both Izuku and the Nomu were nearing his own power level. Kirishima, Shoko, and Katsuki looked at him in shock, struggling to comprehend that someone could be so close to All Might's strength. All Might simply observed Izuku, saying, "Young Midoriya, I know there's more to your power than you realize. You may be the one to surpass me and all other heroes." From Izuku's perspective, his mind was blank, his body numb. This power was a boost, but it was overshadowed by his rage. "I want to end this now," he thought, feeling a surge of speed as lightning began to crackle around him. The Nomu took his blows, crying out in pain, which only fueled his sadistic smile. He refused to hold back, channeling his anger into his strength. "It's time," he said calmly, though no one heard him until he pushed the Nomu back a few feet, its regeneration slow. Clenching his right fist, he covered it with rock and flames, arcs of pure white lightning crackling around it. He dashed toward the Nomu, delivering an uppercut that sent it flying into the air. With his wings unfurling, he pursued the Nomu, debris swirling around them, pushing the onlookers back even further. Shigaraki, narrowing his eyes, observed the blood Izuku spilled and spoke to Kurogiri with a glint of interest. Meanwhile, Ochaco and the others were dealing with villains in different areas of USJ. Ochaco felt anxious for Izuku, hoping he would be okay. But Izuku was fine, moving at lightning speed toward the Nomu, which struggled to keep up. He struck the Nomu's head with a powerful kick, sending it crashing down. Not finished yet, he flew down close to it, his right fist charged with pure lightning, his scales turning pale white. "Lightning Dragon Demolition Impact," he shouted. The impact created a massive crater as Izuku and the Nomu crashed to the ground, resulting in a powerful explosion. Izuku looked down at the defeated Nomu, ignoring Shigaraki's shocked and furious expression. He stomped his foot on the Nomu, blood splattering on the ground, confirming its defeat. Raising his head, he let out a triumphant roar. Chapter End. Nobody's POV. Izuku was leading Mineta and Kaminari toward Nedzu's office. Kaminari asked, "Hey sensei, are we in trouble?" Izuku replied, "Oh no, Mr. Kaminari. We're just going to the principal's office so I can get you two up to speed for some training." The two boys widened their eyes at this but continued walking. Once they reached the office, Izuku knocked on the door and heard a voice say, "Come in." When the door opened, Izuku smiled at Nedzu and let Mineta and Kaminari inside before closing and locking the door. Nedzu said, "Now I'm sure Kitsune wanted you to be trained by him, is that correct?" They both nodded. Mineta asked, Yeah, but is there a reason why you want to train us, sensei?" Izuku replied, "What? Can't a teacher help his students in need? You two have so much potential, but it will take time before you can tap into that raw power, so..." Izuku then dropped his usual persona, shocking the two boys as they recalled the incident at USJ. Izuku continued, "I know you both have questions, which will be answered, but we need to go. I've already texted your parents, and they said it's okay for you to go with me for 2 weeks, and Nedzu allowed it." Mineta asked seriously, "How do we know you won't hurt us?" Izuku smiled at this. I could have done that from the start when we first met, but I didn't. You two and the other students at this school are innocent in my eyes, and I will never hurt you. I have my reasons for fighting, but I can't share them just yet. So please, for just 2 weeks, let me help you become stronger, okay? Mineta and Kaminari looked at him, stealing their nerves, and gave him a hesitant yes. Izuku sighed in relief and turned to Nedzu, who threw a large bag, which Izuku caught. Nedzu said, everything you need for 2 weeks is in here, and when your training with those boys is done, I'll call you to be prepared. Understand? Izuku replied, I understand, sir. He looked at the boys and smiled. Well, let's get this training started now, but first, go home, and I'll see you later. Please don't tell anyone else that I'm here, I don't want to cause a panic. They nodded and left the office, leaving just Izuku and Nedzu. Nedzu asked, Izuku, are you sure you're okay? Izuku replied, I'm fine. Why do you ask? Nedzu said, Tashinori told me what happened after you left USJ about you not being able to use your forms. Izuku looked down. It takes time, I guess, for me to transform. Maybe it takes a lot of energy for me to just. Nedzu interjected, you're dodging the question. Everyone has a dark side, Izuku. Izuku looked at Nedzu in shock. Just don't let it consume you, okay? Nedzu smiled at Izuku, who returned the gesture while leaving the room and slipping back into his persona. As Izuku left the room, he thought, the amount of blood on my hands, the pain, the anger, the fears. Why am I the only one to survive? I miss you, Mom. Suddenly, a voice called out, Sensei. Izuku turned to see Katsumi walking toward him. Don't think about leaving without me and Roundface, and you better spill whatever was happening in the principal's office. Izuku smirked, causing her to blush. Oh, does my tsundere student miss me that much? Katsumi blushed even more and stuttered. What? Don't be ridiculous. Like I'll ever miss you? She then walked away quickly, leaving Izuku smiling but then clenching his fist and placing it over his chest. Demon, what is this? A voice echoed, your hatred and love will bring about a power of 2 sides. Which will you choose? Izuku coughed, feeling a rush of emotions. This is going to be a drag and I just know it. Chapter end. Izuku's POV. No, I can't. The darkness, the pain, the fears. What's your purpose for living, young one? To follow like your mother? I looked around to see my mom standing there until a shadow loomed above. What I saw made me hyperventilate. And no, it can't be. What's your worst fear, Izuku? Tell me. I screamed out in pain, feeling an uncontrollable sensation in my body. I can't take it. No. Suddenly, I opened my eyes, sweat pouring down my body, and saw my 2 students, which made me sigh in relief. I knew we were in a forest far from any civilization, and I intended to keep it that way because these 2 needed it. I started to walk while checking my phone. It was still too early. I went toward a waterfall and sat on a rock, enjoying the cool breeze and the sounds of the early morning. Calming down wouldn't be easy, but I would do it for their sake. It was time for Minoru and Denki's 2-week training to begin. The first day consisted of simple training exercises to build their stamina, reaction time, and strength, as well as helping them become more tactical. After that, it was all about them being chased by me. I finally got to transform into one of the extinct animals, a velociraptor. I had so much fun using this form and playfully scaring the daylights out of the boys. It was a simple game of evading the predator, using their quirks to help them realize how efficient they could be. Before we started the game, it worked perfectly. Kaminari, who usually faced disadvantages when he pushed his quirk too far, began to use less electricity, channeling it to cover his hands and feet, which increased his speed and reaction time. Mineta was taught to think of his quirk not just as a weapon for trapping but also as a form of armor. The 2 of them had to train their bodies before we started our game, eating light to avoid feeling sick and learning to stabilize their newfound potential. There were mistakes and many errors, but I helped them through. However, Mineta yelled, "We're going to die." Kaminari shouted, "We need to go faster. Hurry, dude, before he finds you." Izuku called out with a playful tone, You can't escape from me, little boys. They were performing impressive parkour moves among the trees, but they couldn't escape my keen sense of smell. I was enjoying the moment, a grin spreading across my reptilian face. Time skip. I watched them, their clothes torn from my earlier aggressive training while they practiced some martial arts techniques I had brought along. I corrected their stances, pleased to see how seriously they were taking this in just one day. However, I knew the challenges ahead would be even greater. I smiled at them, unaware of the games I still had in store, until a sudden jolt of pain shot through my head. Izuku, what's happening? A voice responded, in time, your dual powers will reveal themselves. Kaminari asked if I was alright, and I reassured him not to worry and to continue training. I sighed, gazing at the waterfall and then at my reflection, only to catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure with bright red eyes and horns. I shook my head, calming myself as I focused on my students. Izuku, I'll deal with this after the sports festival. These two need their training. I can't let my own issues get in the way. Chapter End. Izuku's POV. I began stretching in my persona while leaning against a Mazda RX. Thanks to Nedzu, I had received the car via email before the end of our 2-week training. While browsing through my phone, I barely dodged a surprise kick aimed at my face. Gotcha, sensei, a voice exclaimed. I chuckled and turned to the young man in front of me. Izuku, you need to mask your scent, Denki, if you want to catch me off guard. I caught another kick and redirected the person toward Denki. Izuku, that goes for you too, Minoru. Minoru, whoa. I looked at these two young men and noted their physical and mental transformations. Denki had changed slightly. His hair now reached close to his shoulders, tied back in a ponytail, and he had gained lean muscle. He could control his quirk better and push his limits for a few minutes before reverting to his usual self. His intelligence had improved, and his more mischievous tendencies had lessened. Minoru had undergone a more drastic change, now standing at 5 feet 7 inches with a lean, muscular build. His perverted nature had diminished, replaced by a tactical mindset. He could use his quirk to form gear from his hair on his arms and legs, allowing him to bounce off surfaces and create weapons of his choice. I instructed them to get in the car since we needed to head to the stadium soon. They had already showered and changed into their P uniforms, while I opted for a more natural approach to bathing. Time skip. After a speedy drive, we arrived at the stadium about 30 minutes early. As we got out of the car, I locked it and glanced around at the various vendors. I noticed Denki and Minoru heading inside and was about to follow when, there you are. I turned to see Mirko, her playful smile brightening my day. Izuku, couldn't you wait? I just got here. Mirko, why would I wait for you? I can't stand you. She playfully shoved me aside, and I noticed her friends standing behind her. The girl had a dragon-like aura that made me growl slightly, and she narrowed her eyes at me, which I returned. Mirko, this is the guy I always talk about, Rumi. Meet Ryuko Tatsuma, aka Izuku, the dragon hero, Ryukyu. Nice to meet you. I extended my hand for a shake, and she gripped it firmly. My eyes narrowed for a moment until I released her hand. Izuku, I should get going. See you later, little bunny. I kissed Rumi on the cheek, but she unexpectedly grabbed my collar and leaned in closer. I glanced at Ryukyu, who blushed and shot me a glare. After a brief moment, Rumi let go, and I continued on my way. Izuku, maybe my animal instincts are acting up. I walked toward the lounge where Class 1A was gathering, just in time to hear Shoko declaring war on Minoru, leaving him shocked after she mentioned our special connection. Izuku, you all look ready for battle? All the students, except for Shoko, Denki, and Minoru, shouted in unison. All, Kitsune-sensei. I chuckled at their enthusiasm, and almost all the girls rushed to give me a group hug. Izuku, I'm glad to know you all missed me, but you need to get ready. As they prepared to leave, I caught sight of Ochaco and Katsumi, who looked my way. I winked at them, causing them to blush. I concentrated, sending a quick message to Denki and Kaminari. Izuku, good luck to both of you. They nodded, determination in their eyes. I approached Toshinori and Nedzu, greeting them. Izuku, hey guys. Nedzu, nice to see you again, Kitsune. Toshinori smiled, clearly pleased to see I was doing well. Nedzu, I hope you trained them well. I smirked confidently. Izuku, oh, trust me, those two will surprise everyone here. As I took a seat, I clenched my fists, trying to fend off the dark thoughts creeping into my mind. Izuku, this is getting tiresome. What is happening to me? I sighed, wincing as a headache struck, accompanied by a vision of a strange chamber. Izuku, what was that? Meanwhile, in an abandoned warehouse, a figure resembling a young girl with short black hair and similar features to mine was trapped inside a large cylindrical tube. As the liquid drained, she opened her bright red eyes and shattered the glass. Once free, she found clothes and headed toward an open door. See, you're finally awake, little one. The girl knelt down in front of the large figure before her. What is your command, master? The figure grinned. For now, I want you to do what your big brother does. Understand? Yes, master. With that, the girl left, now dressed in black fitted pants, high-heeled combat boots, a red tank top, and a black jacket with a hoodie and mask. She found an alleyway and was about to enter when a man in his late 30s approached her. Hey, beautiful, why don't you join me and go somewhere else? She ignored him and began to walk away, but he wasn't deterred. He grabbed her shoulder. Hey, I'm talking to you. Don't ignore me. That was a mistake. She swiftly turned, grabbing his arm and effortlessly pushing him back. The man stumbled, wide-eyed as he noticed 4 shadowy tendrils emerging from her back, each tipped with sharp claws. What the hell? Her eyes glowed a bright green as she looked deep into his soul. You will regret this. With an expressionless face, she moved with precision, her tendrils striking with speed. The encounter ended swiftly, leaving the man incapacitated. Once it was over, she used the remnants of the encounter to write on the walls. As she finished, she quickly retracted her tendrils, transforming them into elegant bird wings, and took to the sky. A civilian, witnessing the aftermath, screamed at the sight, drawing attention and prompting calls to the police. Others looked at the wall, where 2 words were inscribed, Animal Queen. Chapter End. Minoru's POV. It was time to begin the sports festival, and Denki and I were both filled with anticipation. The chief referee for the freshman stage of UA's sports festival was Midnight. As she walked towards the platform in her hero suit, many of the boys blushed. I noticed she was primarily focused on Kitsune-sensei, which made Denki and me smirk a bit. Then she called for the player representative, Katsumi Bakugo, to come to the stage. As she stepped up, she faced forward and looked up to see Kitsune smiling at her, causing her to blush slightly. For those of you here to see the first-year sports festival, I hope you all enjoy it. To all the first-year students of UA, give it your all and show what it means to embody our motto, Go Beyond. Plus Ultra. Everyone cheered. With that, she stepped down from the platform, and the rest of Class 1A smiled at her. Knowing Izuku, he must have been thinking about how much she had changed. Midnight announced the preliminaries, the first event of the sports festival. She revealed the first event to be the obstacle race, a nearly 4 kilometers race around the stadium. As the obstacle was about to start, I glanced at Kaminari, and when we fist-bumped, we both said, let's win this. The obstacle race began, and Denki and I skillfully maneuvered around the other students. Suddenly, we had to jump as Shoko made her move, freezing the ground and causing dozens of students to get stuck in ice. As she slid across the ice, she didn't notice us until it was too late. 2 blurs zipped past her, leaving her and the other students in Class 1A, except for Katsumi and Ochaco, in shock. Using my quirk, I covered my forearms and legs, while Kaminari formed arcs of electricity around him to boost his speed. We weren't the only ones to emerge from the tunnel. Our classmates followed closely behind. As Denki and I moved forward, I heard him shout for me to duck, which I did just in time. Denki Suraisa, he called out, forming an arc of lightning that struck a villain robot. Thanks, man. I replied. Don't mention it, he said, and at that moment, Present Mike announced the first obstacle. We continued to navigate the course, avoiding the robots as best we could. The next stage of the obstacle race was the fall, a canyon that required us to walk on ropes. Meanwhile, Shoko, now in the lead, had already crossed the fall and was approaching the final obstacle, the landmine field. Many students began crossing the fall, with Katsumi catching up to Shoko. Denki and I crawled along the rope, upside down, brainstorming ways to help us advance. Shoko's lead began to shrink as she carefully navigated the landmine field. Katsumi, unaffected by explosions, propelled herself toward Shoko, gaining the lead. The two of them engaged in a brief struggle for position. Once Denki and I reached the minefield, I looked at him and smiled. "Good luck, man," I said, and he looked puzzled until I took off, dodging the mines as best I could. "And it Minoru," he shouted, forming lightning arcs around him as he chased after me. I sped past both girls, leaving them stunned, and they quickly joined the pursuit. I decided to try something new. Using my hair, I formed a small knife and turned around, aiming it near a mine close to the girls, which pushed them back. I accelerated even more, getting closer to the finish line. Hearing my name called as the winner, I looked up to see Kitsune smiling at me and giving me a thumbs up. I couldn't help but smile back. When I spotted Denki, who placed fourth, he shot me a glare before breaking into a grin. "Dude, that was a dirty trick, but hey, you won," he said. We fist-bumped, both of us grinning widely. Soon, other students crossed the finish line. After the obstacle race concluded, Midnight announced that the top 42 students had earned the right to advance, while the others would not. Midnight then announced the second event of the sports festival, the cavalry battle. The top 42 students would form teams of 2 to 4 for this event, earning points by grabbing headbands from the other teams. The number of points each student earns is determined by their placement in the obstacle race. However, placing first is an exception to the points rule, earning a whopping 10 million points. In that moment, I felt a surge of confidence as I noticed the other students looking at me. I took a deep breath and turned my gaze toward Denki Minoru, ready for the challenge ahead. Izuku's POV. As the second part of the sports festival began, I was curious about how far all the students would push themselves. I stood up from my seat, prompting All Might and Nizu to ask where I was going. I simply replied that I needed to use the restroom, holding my chest slightly to convey my urgency. They understood, and I headed out, noticing that the cavalry battle had commenced. "I'm sorry I can't watch you too," I murmured as I left. Once in the restroom, I suddenly coughed up more blood than usual, struggling to catch my breath while trying to maintain my balance. I splashed water on my face, but when I looked in the mirror, I was taken aback by my reflection. Instead of my usual self, I saw swirling black smoke, my eyes glowing red, and 2 horns protruding from my head. I stepped back, gasping for air. "This power will push away the people you care for," a voice echoed, sending chills down my spine. "What?" I asked, but the voice only continued, probing deeper. "Do you blame yourself?" Suddenly, I found myself in a dark void, staring at my reflection, which began to speak. "What?" I stammered, my reflection's mouth curling into a sinister smile. "It's common for someone in your situation to feel guilt." My mouth went dry, and my heartbeat thundered in my ears. I didn't want to ask, but the words escaped me. "What situation?" The reflection laughed, a sound filled with pain and sadness, revealing memories of my past, the accident that changed everything. I felt my breath quicken, and my knees buckled as my other self approached. I was frozen, overwhelmed by the weight of my memories. "All your worries will soon fade away," it taunted, and I felt a sharp pain on my shoulder, unable to scream. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat, realizing I was still in the restroom. I tried to calm myself, but it was futile. As I stood up, I noticed my appearance: disheveled hair and dark circles under my eyes, resembling Aizawa more than I cared to admit. I chuckled at the thought, but the lingering pain in my shoulder made me feel faint. I steadied myself and decided to leave the restroom, but I stumbled against the wall, realizing I had missed most of the second part of the sports festival. As I walked, I spotted Shoko Todoroki and Minor Mineta. Leaning against the wall, I overheard Shoko's unexpected question. Are you Kitsune-sensei's secret love child? Is it possible for me to go on a date with him? Exhausted, I sighed, curious to see how this would unfold and perhaps figure out what was happening to me. Minoru's POV. When Todoroki asked me that, I was utterly confused. Look, I don't understand why you would think I'm Sensei's secret love child. I don't look anything like him. That's true, but you two have been talking more frequently since he arrived, and he seems to have taken a liking to you, she replied. I sighed, knowing that Izuku had indeed shown concern for me during the assessment test, just making sure Uraraka was okay. I get that you might be suspicious of our relationship, but it's strictly a student-teacher dynamic, nothing more. Shoko considered my words for a moment before nodding. I understand, but do you know what quirk marriages are? I admitted I had heard of them, and she then shared the story of her parents, how they met, and the unfortunate circumstances that led her mother to the hospital. I was shocked by her revelation. Anyway, I'm sorry for wasting your time, she said, preparing to leave. Hey, Todoroki, I called out, my determination evident. When we fight, I'm giving it my all. She nodded and walked away, leaving me to ponder what Midoriya would do next. Just then, I heard a cough and turned to see Izuku collapsing behind me. Sensei! I rushed to his side, helping him to his feet. Well, I'm surprised that happened, he coughed, trying to laugh it off. This is serious. You need to see Recovery Girl. No, I'll be fine. Just trust me, he insisted, though I could see he was not okay. I sighed, allowing him to walk on his own, but I noticed the flames flickering around him and the dullness in his eyes. We should probably go. I know you need to prepare for your battle, and you might have to face Todoroki soon. I nodded, and we left together, still concerned about why he was holding his shoulder. Hey, Sensei, I called, trying to lighten the mood with a smile. I've been meaning to tell you this. Meanwhile, after the students had eaten, Present Mike and Aizawa were preparing to announce the final event. All right, before the final event, there's good news for those who dropped out of the preliminaries. The class of 1B felt a wave of confusion as they entered through the entrance. Present Mike announced, in the end, this is still a sports festival. To ensure everyone can continue participating, we have some recreational events planned. And just look at how energized those cheerleaders we brought in from America are. Present Mike paused for a moment, taking in the excitement around him. What's this? Aizawa, what are they even? Present Mike, what happened, Class 1A? When he said that, all the girls in Class 1A were wearing cheerleader outfits, with Denki smiling and giving them a thumbs up while trying to avoid looking at Katsumi Bakugu, who was glaring at him. Momo accused him and Minoru of tricking them. Denki, oh boy, I just hope Minoru's got Izuku on board for this. Present Mike, well, it seems that. For real. Everyone stopped to see Izuku in his persona, and almost all the females had admiring looks on their faces, while most of the males looked jealous of Izuku. Izuku, who was walking with Minoru, wore the UAP uniform, but his shirt was open, revealing his toned upper body. His hair flowed down past his shoulders instead of being tied back. As he approached the girls, they were a blushing mess. Izuku walked with a confident smile, his eyes glowing with excitement. When he reached them, he gave each of them a friendly kiss on the cheek. Izuku, thanks for the show, ladies. He then looked toward Minoru and Denki, and when they saw his expression, they knew they had succeeded. After that, Present Mike announced the final event, a one-on-one match. While Izuku was seated with his class, he suddenly grabbed his right arm, feeling a sharp pain. He removed his shirt, revealing strange black markings on his shoulder that made him pale slightly. Izuku, what the hell? He saw the kanji on his shoulder, demon. Izuku, demon? Suddenly, he felt a headache and found himself face to face with himself. Soon we will meet. Your powers will make you stronger or consume you. You might not be able to transform at all, but in due time, we will see. Before Izuku could ask what he meant, he felt a gentle touch and turned to see it was Ochaco. He sighed in relief. Ochaco, are you okay, sensei? Izuku, I'm fine. I came here to see you all shine and I can't wait. She smiled at him and he returned the smile, but his mind drifted back to that image. Izuku, what the hell is happening to me? He shook his head and took a deep breath as the recreational events began. Suddenly he felt hollow, as if his entire being was being consumed by something he couldn't control. Izuku, why? Why did you leave me? Mom? Chapter end. Minoru's POV. The first match was called, which meant it was my time to show how much I've trained. After telling my classmates to wish me luck, I stepped forward. Mike, all right, feast your eyes on the one who came first in the obstacle course and cavalry battle. Minoru Mineta versus We're sorry, but he's only a normal student without anything special. From the general's department, Hitoshi. As I looked at my opponent, Present Mike began announcing the rules. Mike, if your opponent leaves the ring, can't move anymore, or says, I give up, then the victory is yours. So don't worry about overdoing yourself. A recovery girl is waiting at the edge of the stadium, so leave your morale to the side and give it your all. Of course, putting your opponent's life at risk is not permitted. If you do that, you will be disqualified immediately. Heroes should only attack without mercy when facing villains. With that, my opponent started talking. Shinso, I give up. Did you get that, Minoru Mineta? This event is a battle to test the strength of our determination. I glared at him. Shinso, if I had a strong desire for the future, then fears don't matter. Mike, without further ado, let the battle begin. What he said next made me furious. Shinso, still, that monkey keeps flaking nonsense about his stupid dignity. Throwing away an opportunity like that makes him a big idiot. And not only that, your sensei of yours really is nothing but a complete moron, huh? Mike, ready, fight. I was so angry that I rushed at him. Minoru, you a-hole, take that back. I didn't know what happened, but my mind was clouded. Shinso only smiled. Shinso, the victory is mine. Meanwhile, in the stands, Class 1A was confused. Except for Ojiro, who was freaking out. Ojiro, Demon IT, Mineta. Didn't I tell you? Izuku narrowed his eyes at the outcome. Then he said, Izuku, don't worry, I'm sure Minoru has a plan to get out of this mess. He always does. Denki nodded, but he was still worried. Mike, listen, what's going on? This is the first fight. Can you guys be any more emotional? Izuku's eyes narrowed. Izuku, what's your plan now, Minoru? Mike, at the beginning, Mineta completely stopped moving. Shota Aizawa and Present Mike discussed Hitoshi's history and his quirk. Shinso, it must be nice to be blessed. Minoru Mineta, now just turn around and walk out of bounds. I tried so hard not to, but I obeyed and started to walk. Mike, what is this, Mineta? Quirk info. Hitoshi Shinso. Quirk, brainwash. Info, he can make anyone who answers him do his bidding, depending on whether they're consciously willing it. While everyone wondered what was going on, I fought to break free from this mind control, but nothing I tried worked. My emotions had let him get to me. Ojiro warned me, but it was useless. Demon IT can't end like this. I've given it my all. After what Izuku's done for both me and Denki, I can't let him down not like this. Suddenly, something happened, a small glimpse of hope. A single memory where Denki and I were with Izuku during training surfaced. He talked about how the possibility of using electricity from my own body with enough force could help me, like when I combined heat with my quirk. I concentrated, hoping it would work. Shinso, not that you'll understand, but even with a quirk like mine, I've still got dreams. So bow out for me. I was on the brink of exhaustion when suddenly, a spark of energy surged through me, igniting my entire being. My eyes glowed with intensity as I used my 2 fingers on my left hand to summon lightning and wind. Shinso! The gust of wind forced Shinso to shield his face, and the rest of Class 1A looked on in shock at my display of power. However, 2 classmates grinned, clearly pleased by my display. I took deep breaths, feeling the numbness in my fingers. Mike, what the? Mineta has broken free? Aizawa's eyes widened in disbelief as he focused on me. Aizawa. He used his fingers to break free from the mind control with sheer force. Shinso, how? You shouldn't have been able to move. What did you? I shot him a determined glare, choosing to remain silent as I activated my quirk, forming gauntlets and channeling electricity into my legs. The numbness was creeping in, and I knew I had to finish this quickly. Shinso. Darn it, he's not saying anything. I need to get him to talk so I can trap him again. Shinso, why won't you say anything? You suddenly got a power boost just by using your fingers. Wow, I'm so jealous. I simply stared at him, preparing myself. Minoru, there was a time. I felt powerless and envious of those who had more than me. Shinso, there was no success for me here, not with this quirk. Someone like you would never understand. I began to run, my eyes locked on him, fighting through the growing numbness in my legs. Minoru, I understand how you feel. It was thanks to someone who showed me the way that I found my strength. Shinso, people like you, born with perfect quirks, would never understand. Minoru, I get it. I understand because I've walked that same path, and that's why. I closed the distance, using my strength to push him back. Shinso, frustrated, punched me in the face, trying to break my grip. Shinso, spit something out, for goodness sake. He was taken aback by my glare, even with my nose bleeding. Minoru, that's why. I continued to push him back. Shinso, trying to push me out? Don't be so naive. He dodged my attack and lunged at me, attempting to force me out of bounds. But I seized his arm, channeling electricity through my body and using his momentum against him. Minoru, that's why. I can't lose here, no matter what. With a powerful shove, I sent Shinso out of bounds. Midnight announced the outcome. Midnight, Shinso is out. My Neta will advance to round 2. I took deep breaths and knelt, deactivating my quirk and releasing the electricity. Looking up at the stadium, I saw Izuku smiling at me, and it filled me with joy. Chapter End. Minoru's POV. After being declared the winner, I turned to Shinso. Minoru, why do you want to pursue heroics, Shinso? Shinso, I can't help what I long to be, can I? I sighed but smiled as his classmates began to congratulate him, and even the pro heroes acknowledged his talent. Shinso. Even with these results, I can still be reviewed for heroics. Remember this, even if it's not now, I will qualify for heroics, join your department, and show you all what a fantastic hero I can be. I smiled back. Minoru. Suddenly, I felt a jolt of energy and grinned. Minoru, try again. Shinso. I see you're not easy to control. Well, at least you talk to me. Just don't make it easy for me when I try to catch you off guard. Don't lose pitifully, got it? I gave him a thumbs up as he walked away. Afterward, I headed to Recovery Girl's infirmary to get patched up from my battle, and that was when Izuku arrived. Minoru, sensei. Izuku, hey, congrats on making it to the next round. Recovery Girl, you've done well. I'm quite surprised at what you accomplished. Just don't overexert yourself, alright? I nodded and thanked her before leaving with Izuku. As we approached the stadium where Class 1A was, Izuku suddenly stopped me. Minoru, sensei, W. He silenced me with a gesture, pointing toward Endeavor and Shoko. Shoko, get out of my way. Endeavor, your behavior has been nothing but disgraceful, Shoko. If you had used your left side, you could have easily won both the obstacle race and the cavalry battle. Shoko ignored him and walked past. Endeavor, your resistance is childish and tiresome. Stop messing around and focus on your duty to surpass all might. She clenched her fists, visibly angry. Endeavor, has it sunken yet? You are different from your older siblings. You are my greatest masterpiece. Shoko, is that all you ever say? I will earn my victories using only my mother's power. I will never use your power in battle. Endeavor, even if that works for you now in high school, you'll hit your limits soon enough. Once their conversation ended, I noticed Izuku narrowing his eyes, looking frustrated, and I saw dark markings creeping across his face below his eyes. I touched his arm, and he looked at me, the anger fading and the markings disappearing. Minoru, we should go. He nodded, and we left together. When we met up with the rest of the class, they congratulated me, and it was time for another battle. Present Mike. Sorry to keep you waiting, folks. Next up, it's these two. He's turned in an excellent performance to make it this far, and yet, what's with that plain expression? Hantus Zero of the Heroics Department. Zero, oh geez. Present Mike. Versus you stand at the top of the top, she who is way too strong from the same department. Shoko Todoroki. Zero started to stretch a bit. I don't know if I've got a shot here, but... With that, he fired his tape at Shoko, wrapping her up and trying to toss her out of bounds. I definitely ain't rolling over either. Present Mike exclaimed, a lightning-quick surprise assault aiming for a ring out. Almost without a doubt, the best choice we could have made. Earnestly, give it your all, Zero. However, it looked almost too easy, and it seemed like Izuku thought the same. When Shoko glanced at Zero, her expression turned fierce. I apologize, she said, and with that, she created a massive pillar of ice in retaliation, completely immobilizing Zero and freeing herself in the process. The spectators gasped at Shoko's display of power. I looked at Sensei, who was staring at the ice so close to his face with an unimpressed expression. Isn't this a little much? Zero asked, shivering. Can you move, Zero? Midnight inquired. When Zero replied that he couldn't, Midnight announced it to the crowd, who tried to encourage him, praising his efforts. Well, this is something, huh? A voice said. Shoko and Zero turned to see their sensei. I was a bit surprised to see him there so quickly, but what happened next caused most of the girls to blush. Izuku approached the platform and walked towards his students. Well, this is really something. Are you doing okay, Mr. Zero? He asked. I've been through worse, but I do need to get out, Zero replied. Shoko was about to help, but Izuku stopped her. Don't worry, I'll take care of this, he said, his eyes glowing as his hair shifted to form long ears, and 9 tails emerged from his tailbone. The girls blushed even more at this transformation. Izuku approached the pillar of ice and flicked it, causing it to disintegrate into small specks. He then grabbed Zero and placed him on a stretcher, still covered in a bit of ice. Turning to Shoko, he smiled and gently patted her head before wrapping one of his tails around her. You did an amazing job, Ms. Todoroki, he said. She blushed at the compliment but seemed lost in thought. Izuku noticed her sadness and sighed internally, determined to help her in some way. With Shoko's victory, she moved on to the next round. Another match was about to begin, and it promised to be electric. Meanwhile, on a random building, a figure was watching the sports festival on a brand new phone. She smiled when she spotted someone dear to her. It seems I found Oniai-chan. Denki's POV. Alright, now it's time for the next round. We have the girl who looks like an assassin in Class 1B, Ibra Shizaki, versus the electric man himself in Class 1A, Denki Kaminari. Now let's... excuse me, sorry for the interruption, but what do you mean by assassin? I only came here to seek victory, not to take my opponent's life. That wouldn't be in the spirit of a hero, sir, Ibra interjected. Right. I'm sorry. Mike replied. Gentlemen, I didn't enter UA for winning or for selfish reasons, but to deliver salvation to others. It's my humble quest to spread good across the world, she declared, light shining on her as if she were an angel. Listen, I said I was sorry, okay? It was my bad. Anyway, let's have this match. Start. I took deep breaths to think about my strategy and smiled. Well, I hope you don't cry when I best you, I said, noticing her confusion. Because this is gonna end in 2 seconds. I stated, generating electricity and preparing to strike. To me, it was amusing, but I also felt a pang of sympathy for Ida. When I turned to see Sensei's reaction, he had already vanished, which made me worry for him. Izuku's POV. After that transformation, I wasn't quite myself, so I decided to take a walk. That's when I stumbled upon Momo, who looked upset. I approached her and wrapped her in a comforting hug, surprising her. Momo, Sensei, what are you doing? I continued to hold her, reassuring her that everything would be all right. Izuku, it doesn't matter that you lost, you still did an amazing job. You're only in your first year, and mistakes are part of learning. So don't feel discouraged, okay? She nodded and tears streamed down her face. After thanking me, she quickly left, but not before giving me a gentle kiss on the cheek. I smiled as she walked away and continued on my path, eventually coming across Ida and Ochaco deep in conversation. Izuku, so you're that nervous, huh? When they noticed me, they were curious about why I wasn't watching the matches. I explained that they had ended quickly and filled them in on what had happened. After that, Ida excused himself and left, leaving me alone with Ochaco. Izuku, so, I see you've been training with Mirko, huh? She didn't respond verbally but gave me a look that conveyed her displeasure. Ochaco, why were you ignoring us? I could only look down, feeling a bit ashamed. Izuku, I'm just having an off day, that's all. Ochaco stepped closer and wrapped her arms around me. Ochaco, Izu, if you're having an issue, I'm here for you. I smiled and embraced her hug. Izuku, thanks, Ochaco. I leaned in for a kiss, but she playfully stopped me. Ochaco, oh no, you're not getting any kisses from me. She smirked and I couldn't help but laugh. Izuku, let's see who wins between you and Katsumi. She extended her fist toward me, determination shining in her eyes. Ochaco, no matter what, I'm giving it my all. I fist bumped her and nodded in agreement. Meanwhile, the match between Kirishima and Tetsu ended in a draw. It would be announced who would advance to the next round once they recovered. As the announcement was made, I decided to position myself near the action and walked beside Midnight. Midnight, oh what's this? Deciding to be close to me, Kitsune. I chuckled and playfully pinched her cheeks, making her whine. Izuku, stay professional, Midnight. We'll talk later, okay? She pouted, making her look adorable. But as I focused on the two competitors about to battle, my tails began to move excitedly, and my ears twitched. Mike, this is the last match of the first round. Now, the one who's been somewhat famous since middle school. And one with a temper from the heroes department, Katsumi Bakugu, versus the kid I'll be rooting for, Ochaco Uraraka from the heroics as well. I stared and smiled. Izuku, let's see how much you two have improved. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my right shoulder and heard a familiar voice. I'm sorry, Izuku. Your transformation will be limited to a select few for the time being. Izuku, tell me why this is happening? You'll find out soon, just wait a bit longer. With a sigh, I felt the voice fade away, but I furrowed my brow in confusion. Izuku, what's happening to me? Both girls exchanged smiles as they prepared for the match. Katsumi, I hope you give it your all, round face, because I'm about to get serious and win. Ochaco smiled back and stretched. Ochaco, thanks for that, cat. However, Mike, start. Ochaco rushed forward. Ochaco, I'm not going to lose either. She attempted to make the first move, but Katsumi unleashed an explosion. Ochaco skillfully dodged the attack, only to have Katsumi try again. Katsumi, come on, round face. Get serious. Katsumi noticed a silhouette and aimed for an explosion, but it turned out to be just a jacket. Unbeknownst to her, Ochaco was above, using her gravity quirk and recalling what she learned under Mirko. Ochaco, my quirk not only turns off the gravity on something I touch, but I can control the gravity completely. With that, she clenched her right hand, releasing her gravity and increasing it around her arm. Katsumi looked up just in time to avoid an attack that could have caused her serious harm. The sheer power Ochaco displayed made Izuku's face pale. Izuku, Ohno, what did Rumi teach Ochaco? Katsumi smirked at Ochaco. Katsumi, now that's what I'm talking about. Give me everything you've got. Ochaco panted but grinned, clenching her fist and decreasing the gravity around her legs to feel lighter. She started running toward Katsumi, who braced herself but had to dodge the bricks Ochaco hurled her way. As Ochaco closed in, she reached out to touch Katsumi, but an explosion hit her, pushing her back. Katsumi was about to continue her assault with more explosions when the crowd began to chant for her to stop fooling around and finish the match. Katsumi suddenly remembered her past behavior and how she had treated Izuku and everyone she cared about. She began to hyperventilate, and when Ochaco noticed, she grew concerned. Suddenly, a screeching sound pierced the air, emanating from Izuku, who glared with intense focus, radiating an aura that instilled fear in everyone around him. Izuku, who was the one that said that if you're a hero, you better pack up and leave? Bakugo remained vigilant, aware of her opponent's strength. If you think I'm going to stand here and listen to you criticize the students, you're mistaken. Katsumi smiled at Izuku's actions. She glanced at Ochaco, who looked worn but was still standing and smiling back at her. Katsumi asked, "Are you ready to finish this?" Ochaco replied with a determined smile, "Thanks for the match, Katsumi, but this is my victory." With that, she brought her fingers together, causing everyone to look up as debris filled the sky, creating a meteor shower effect. Panting and feeling fatigued, Ochaco rushed forward again, though she felt slower this time. "I need to do this. I'm almost there," she urged herself. However, Katsumi raised her arms and unleashed a powerful explosion that sent the falling debris crashing down, pushing Ochaco back and causing her to tumble to the ground. As she struggled to regain her footing, Katsumi prepared to chase after her. But just as Ochaco felt the effects of her quirk taking hold, she blacked out, nearly collapsing if not for a soft tail wrapping around her to keep her safe. The last thing Izuku heard from her was a faint, "I'm sorry, Daddy." Izuku announced, "Ms. Uraraka is unable to continue. The match goes to Ms. Bakugo, who advances to the next round." Katsumi sighed, feeling her left hand throb. Suddenly, Izuku lifted her with one of his tails. "Hey, I can walk on my own," she protested. "Just appreciate this for once, okay, Ms. Bakugo?" Izuku replied. Katsumi felt her cheeks warm as she touched Izuku's fluffy tail. Meanwhile, Cementos was busy repairing the platform. Izuku sent the girls to Recovery Girl for treatment. It took a moment for Ochaco to wake up and see Izuku and Katsumi, who was opening and closing her clenched hand. Izuku smiled at Ochaco and gently patted her head. "You did an amazing job out there. I'm proud of you." Tears filled Ochaco's eyes as Recovery Girl and Katsumi left. Katsumi reflected on how Ochaco had given it her all, proving she was anything but fragile. Back with Izuku and Ochaco, they shared a comforting hug, with Ochaco reassuring him that she felt better. "So, what will you do now?" Izuku asked. "I need to learn from my mistakes and improve. I don't want to be left behind," Ochaco replied. Izuku smiled but felt a slight pain in his shoulder, though he didn't show it. When he heard that Kirishima's match was over, he leaned in and gave Ochaco a quick kiss on the lips, making her blush. "You should call your parents. I'm sure they'll be proud," he suggested before leaving her to make the call. As Izuku walked to check on his students, he caught a whiff of flames he recognized. He turned to see Endeavor speaking with Minoru and felt a surge of irritation. Minoru's POV. "After Kirishima's battle, I waved at my classmates, wishing them luck, and fist-bumped Denki. 'You better win so we can have that battle,' he encouraged. I grinned and nodded, ready to prepare, but then I was stopped. 'Endeavor?' I exclaimed. I recalled what Izuku had said about him, and I felt no respect for the hero. 'Oh, so you are here,' Endeavor remarked. 'Is there something you need?' I asked, taking a deep breath under the pressure he exuded. But Izuku's intensity was far scarier when he got serious. 'You made quite an impression, using your quirk to capture and produce electricity with just your fingers. It rivals All Might's,' he continued. Confused, I considered excusing myself, but he stopped me, insisting he wasn't finished. 'My Shoko has a duty to surpass All Might. Her match against you will be an excellent test, so don't disgrace yourself,' he warned. Anger bubbled within me, but I held it back. 'Shouldn't you be heading to your match, Mr. Mineta?' A familiar voice interrupted. It was our teacher, and he didn't look pleased. I nodded and hurried away from the two. Nobody's POV. Izuku watched as Minoru left and turned his attention to Endeavor, who glared at him. 'If you have something to say, then say it,' Izuku challenged, irritation evident in his tone. Endeavor's anger flared. 'The fact that Rat allowed you to be a teacher for these students surprises me. At least I appreciate my students and understand them, unlike some people. Does child abuser ring any bells?' Izuku shot back. Endeavor sensed something was off but couldn't say anything as he saw Izuku's eyes glowing red, his tails raised. A dark figure loomed behind Izuku, its red eyes piercing through him. Let this be a warning. If you hurt your daughter or my students, there will be consequences. Your daughter isn't your masterpiece. She's a human being, and she'll never be you. So watch what you say, Izuku warned before walking away, leaving Endeavor on his knees, sweat pouring down his face as he struggled to catch his breath. Who does he think he is, threatening me? No one does this and walks away, Endeavor muttered to himself. Meanwhile, Izuku felt the mark on his shoulder expanding and glanced at his wrist, noticing it was spreading there too. Now with his students, Izuku focused on the upcoming match. Minoru, you're the only one who can help her. Please, Mike announced, and now for this round of the sports festival. Both competitors are ready to take on each other. The world ain't big enough for the both of them. Mineta versus Todoroki. Ready? Start. With that, both competitors prepared to fight. Minoru thought, no matter what happens, I know what my goal is. To help you, Shoko. That seems awfully troublesome. Ochaco then sat down next to me, causing the girls to glance in my direction. I felt a wave of fear, but it wasn't because of the girls, no, it was Rumi's intense gaze that made me feel like I was in danger. I tried my best not to look her way. Tokoyami spoke up, rather than lament over what can't be changed, one should take inspiration from the battles. Ochaco nodded and turned to me. Sensei, what do you think about this battle? I could only stare ahead, my 9 foxtails fanning out behind me and my ears twitching in anticipation. Izuku chimed in, all I can say is this battle will likely bring out both of their full potential. Meanwhile, we see Tamura Shigaraki sitting in a chair, watching the live-action video of the sports festival. Pay close attention, Tamura Shigaraki. They may become obstacles for you in the future, a voice said. Tamura scoffed, scratching his neck. He recalled the USJ incident and the images of Izuku and himself. What does this mean? Who are you to me, Izuku Midoriya? With the battle now starting, Shoko launched a glacier at me. I dodged it, taking deep breaths to steady myself, determined not to use my quirk just yet. When Shoko attacked again, I summoned my quirk to create a gauntlet for my right hand. Clenching it, I delivered a powerful strike. Smaowash. The ice shattered, and Shoko was pushed back, a cold wind swirling around us. So it actually got sent back, she remarked, surprised. I clenched my right hand, feeling the electric energy coursing through my body. It stung, but I could still move. Izuku knew that if I kept this up, I might not just feel numbness but also risk injury. Kaminari was clenching his fists, eager for me to win so we could show Sensei how much we had trained. When Shoko fired another ice attack, I used my legs to counter, sending the ice flying back. This time, I covered my leg with electricity. I knew summoning weapons would be pointless, so I focused on my gauntlets, striking the ice again and pushing Shoko back. Let's get up close and personal from now on, I declared. Meanwhile, back in the stadium, Kirishima had returned after receiving treatment. Man, they already started, he said. Kaminari looked over at him. Oh, good job making it to the second round, Kirishima. Kirishima grinned. Yep. You're my next opponent, huh, Bakugo? She simply flipped him off while still watching the match, making Ochaco and Izuku laugh at her antics. Anyways, both you and Todoroki can unleash a barrage of powerful attacks without breaking a sweat, Kirishima continued. Before Katsumi could respond, Izuku interjected, they don't just shoot rapid fire, Mr. Kirishima. Kirishima looked at Izuku, whose tails were flowing in the air. If you overexert your muscles, the fibers will wear down. If you run out of breath, your quirk is a part of you, meaning it's a physical function, which also means. Back to the battle. Are you trying to make this an endurance match? Then I'll just end it right now. Shoko declared, firing another ice attack. I smiled, holding my head down and closing my eyes. Get in close, focus on her limits, and then strike. With that thought in mind, I dodged the ice and charged at her. She fired more ice, but I kept dodging, getting closer. When she saw my face, she gasped. What? His eyes are closed this entire time? How? Before she could launch another attack, I delivered a punch to her gut, pushing her back. Look at this, folks. Mineta delivered the first hit, Mike announced. But it wasn't enough to knock her out of bounds. She used her ice to stop herself. So you delivered the first blow, huh? It doesn't matter, she said confidently. And she was right as she suddenly froze my right arm, making it go limp. Diamant, she's sharp. It's not just her quirk. Her analysis, her agility, everything about her abilities is powerful. If it weren't for Izuku training both me and Denki, I would have lost during the second part of the games by a long shot. I must say, even though all you've done is defend, dodge, and hit, you've somehow reached your limit, Shoko remarked. She was right. I felt like I was about to collapse, but adrenaline kept me on my feet. As she spoke about limits, I noticed something that almost made me smile. And just like I thought, all those pros out there can now see that I'm more than just the daughter of number 2. Damn it, I'm almost out of breath. What kind of reason is that? That's just. My head hung low from what I was hearing. Sorry about all that, and thank you, Mineta. Thanks to you. That guy's face says he just got knocked down a peg or two. So for that, you shouldn't fight while you're this exhausted. Let's end this, Mike announced. Todoroki is continuing his overwhelming offensive. It looks like this ice will make for the finishing blow. However, Mike stopped as the atmosphere shifted. Where are you looking, you fool? I thought. Suddenly, a blast of lightning erupted, destroying the ice and pushing Shoko back once more. The crowd gasped, even Izuku. My God, you're going to show them, huh, Minoru? Izuku said, astonished. Shoko groaned in pain from the blast. Are you serious? Just how far are you going to keep this up? Why? She fell silent when she saw my state, fear creeping into her expression. You're shivering, right? Quirks are just another one of our physical functions, so there's a limit to how much of your own generated cold you can take, right? Then wouldn't it be so much easier for you to use your left side? I was furious, electricity crackling around me and causing the floor plates to shift. Everyone's giving everything they've got. They're pushing themselves to get closer to victory, striving to become number 1. My thoughts were clouded. My anger and determination fueled a surge of power within me. My hair began to lengthen, my eyes narrowing, and I clenched my fists so tightly that I felt the sting of my own blood. You think you can win using only half your power? You haven't even scratched me. Minoru shouted, the ice that had encased my arm shattering away. Shoko glared at me, her expression fierce. So you better get over here and show me what you're made of. Fight me, Minoru challenged. Meanwhile, Endeavor was stewing over Izuku's words, his anger intensifying. This Kitsune will regret ever messing with me. I'll make sure of that. Shoko was consumed by rage. What are you planning, Mineta? Minoru's POV. Shoko believed her father had urged me to go all out against her. Enraged, she charged at me, but I noticed that her movements were becoming sloppy from the frostbite caused by her ice powers. This gave me the opening I needed. Focus on the image of lightning. Control the output. I urged myself, landing a focused punch enhanced with electricity right in her stomach, knocking her to the ground. She felt the sting of the blow, and I too felt the numbness from her ice, but I wouldn't let that stop me. Ooh, a bitter blow on a brittle body. Bet you all felt that one. He landed a hit on Todoroki. What's going to happen next, folks? Mike announced. But Shoko wasn't finished. She got back up and launched a wave of ice at me, though it was weaker than before. I dodged and aimed another punch at her gut, sending her reeling once more. Why are you going so far? She asked, breathless. I need to live up to my teacher's expectations. I have to give it my all. That's why everyone's giving it their all. But you're not even showing your full power. I shouted, landing another hit. I can't even begin to understand your circumstances or your resolution, but thinking you can become number 1 without using your full strength is a joke. I continued. Shoko began to recall her painful past, how her father had pushed her to train from a young age, even to the point of sickness. She remembered the abuse she and her mother endured, the isolation from her siblings. As the frostbite took its toll, icy marks spread across her right side, and I struck her again. That's why I'm going to win. I'm going to surpass you, I declared. Shoko remembered the moment her mother had been hurt, and how her father had taken her to the hospital. Anger bubbled within her as she rose. My father, she whispered. I had reached my limit, and sparks of electricity crackled around me, shattering the ice that encased my arm. For the love of God, it's your power. Not your mother's and not your dad's. In the stands, Izuku struggled to contain his laughter. In Minoru, that was great, he chuckled. After my words, Shoko recalled her mother's encouragement that she wasn't bound by her bloodline and could become anything she wanted. Touched by both her mother's and my words, Shoko activated her fire power, flames igniting along the left side of her body. What's this? Mike exclaimed. In the stands, Class 1A watched in shock as Shoko embraced her fire side. Izuku smiled at the transformation, but his expression faltered when he noticed Endeavor grinning with satisfaction. Back with Minoru and Shoko, she said, even though you want to win, you're going out of your way to help your enemy. Which one of us is the joke? I could only smile at her determination. I'm going to be a hero, she declared, her own smile shining through. Sheku! Endeavor shouted. So you've finally accepted yourself. Good. Excellent. Now this is your true beginning. Surpass me and realize my ambition. Filled with joy, he stepped closer to the match, eager to see his daughter unleash her potential. What are you smiling about? Shoko asked, her power surging. With your power now, you might be a little reckless, but whatever happens, I don't care. I just smiled back. I'm pretty sure Kitsune-sensei would say otherwise, I replied, and she smirked at that, beginning to power up. Time to use my final attack. I'll make this my signature move. I declared, electricity crackling around me, my hair standing on end, my eyes glowing white. Both Shoko and I prepared for our final attacks. She launched a massive wave of ice at me, and I leaped over the ice pillars, using them to gain speed as I closed in on her, my right arm crackling with electricity. Lightning form, lightning bullet. I shouted. Thank you, Mineta, and to you too, Kitsune-sensei, Shoko whispered to herself. Cementos raised a wall between us in an attempt to stop our attacks, but we pressed on. Shoko ignited the cold with her fire power, creating a powerful wind blast that combined with my lightning attack, resulting in a massive shockwave that blasted us both back and shattered Cementos' wall. The shockwave reverberated throughout the entire arena. As the dust and smoke began to clear, everyone held their breath in anticipation. When they finally saw Minoru, he stood amidst arcs of electricity, injuries visible on his body, while Shoko lay outside the bounds of the arena, a portion of her shirt torn. Minoru was declared the winner, resulting in Shoko's elimination from the tournament. This outcome did not sit well with a certain fire hero. As he approached, Minoru could only watch as a fiery fist aimed for him. However, instead of impact, he found himself enveloped in a soft, comforting embrace that lulled him to sleep. Shoko was there too, a serene expression on her face. Endeavor glared at the one who had intervened. Get out of the way, he commanded. Izuku, the one who had stopped the attack, glared back, his tail swaying and ears twitching with agitation. You tried to hurt one of my students. Do you really think I would let that happen? He retorted. Endeavor hesitated, ready to retaliate, but the gaze of the onlookers made him pause. You really think you can win? How about this? Hey Mike, I've got something to say. What is it, my nine-tailed friend? Mike replied. I'm going to battle Endeavor after all the students have finished their matches. I'm sure everyone would love to see how someone like me can take down this sorry excuse for a hero. His declaration sparked boos from the crowd, who deemed him arrogant for believing he could defeat Endeavor. The fire hero merely laughed, accepting Izuku's challenge, while Midnight sighed, realizing she had no choice in the matter. The other heroes were eager to see how Izuku would handle Endeavor. Just hope you don't end up like the trash you are, Endeavor warned. Izuku smiled confidently. Oh, I'm not worried, not one bit. He began to walk away, ensuring his students received the care they needed. "Oh yeah, I just remembered something. Endeavor," he called back. Endeavor turned to Izuku, his expression shifting as he noticed a dark presence looming over him. "Just make sure you're still intact when we battle, okay? Because when I'm through with you, I'll make sure Shoko's mother receives all the help she needs, you fake hero." With that, he left, casting a proud glance at his two students. "You both did amazing out there. I'm proud to be your teacher, and I can't wait for you to show the world what it means to be a hero." As he walked, he suddenly paused, clutching his chest as a familiar sensation surged within him. "Damn it, I feel like I'm about to cough up more blood. This feeling, this hatred inside me. I know for a fact that I despise some of the pros, and the one I hate most is the one who denied my dream. You think you're forgiven, All Might? Oh no, you're in for it when I'm done with you." With that thought in mind, he continued walking, his shadow taking on a more ominous form. Izuku's POV. After leaving Minoru and Shoko to be healed by Recovery Girl, my mind was consumed with rage. I was determined to show that arrogant individual just how weak he truly was. As the platform for the students to compete was repaired, I watched the ongoing battles. Following the intense match between Minoru and Shoko, the other competitors were giving it their all. When it was Denki and Tenya's turn, Denki wasted no time demonstrating just how much faster he had become. This continued until it was Minoru's and Denki's turn. The two were evenly matched and sustained a lot of damage, resulting in a tie that concluded the sports festival, leaving Katsumi frustrated that she hadn't fought either Minoru or Denki. After All Might awarded medals to the students who had made it this far, it was time for my own battle. Class 1A was worried, but I reassured them that I would be fine. This battle, I would ensure he felt the consequences of his actions. I deactivated my fox form, feeling its energy drain my strength. "Ah, there you are, young Kitsune," a voice called out. I paused and turned to see Tashinori, the skeletal figure, approaching me. "Is there something you need?" I asked, my irritation evident. He noticed my anger but continued speaking, concern etched on his face. "Young Kitsune, I know you might think it's a good idea to challenge Endeavor, but please, consider not fighting him." "Why should I?" "He deserves it after what he did to me," I replied, my voice laced with bitterness. "Please, just forget about this. It isn't worth it. I'm sure if you just help by accepting one for all, please, young Kitsune," he urged. He was still going on about that. I regretted healing him now. "I told you before, I won't accept it. Why can't you understand? And for the record, you can't control me or tell me what to do. You aren't my dad." Just as I was about to leave, he grabbed my arm. "Young Midoriya, you need to understand that your actions have consequences. Nedza may trust you, but you need to know what you're up against. You need this quirk to become the next symbol of peace." I turned my head to look at him, and in a moment of frustration, I kicked him away. I wasn't finished. I aimed a second kick at him, feeling a surge of satisfaction. "Let this be a warning, old man. My happiness around you was a facade. I still hate you and I always will. When the time comes and it will, I'll make sure everyone sees who you really are, and then I'll make you pay." A shiver ran down my spine as I felt something crawling on my skin, stopping just around my arm and the right side of my face. Tashinori looked at me, his expression shifting to one of horror as he realized the darkness within me. After leaving him behind, I continued walking, showing no sympathy for those I despised. "I'll make him pay. He'll regret crossing me. Soon, he'll face the consequences of his actions." It felt like I was on the edge of unleashing something dark, and no one would stop me from staining my hands with the consequences of my choices. No one. Izuku's path was being shaped by his dark thoughts. Would his friends and loved ones be able to help him, or would he choose to align with those he could truly trust? With the conclusion of the students' battles and the top participants receiving their medals, the stadium expanded in anticipation of a significant clash. Class 1A's teacher against the number 2 hero. The students who knew Kitsune were worried about him, noticing his strange behavior. Minoru clenched his fists, wishing he could have done more. This battle would be a test of strength, strategy, and resilience. No eliminations, just pure knockout or surrender. Izuku, now in his persona, wore a fitted black bodysuit with a hood and his signature fox mask. He settled into a comfortable position, waiting for his opponent. In the stands, Himiko, disguised with a black wig and contacts, chatted with Rumi, who sat between her and Ryuko Tatsuma, also known as Ryukyu. Ryukyu watched Izuku intently, her skepticism from their first meeting fading as she felt an undeniable urge to connect with him, her thoughts drifting into daydreams that made her blush. Back to Izuku, he remained still until he spotted his target, the one who had hurt his loved ones. Endeavor regarded Izuku with folded arms and a glare. "It would be best if you gave up, we already know the outcome." Izuku stayed in his position, his tail swaying slightly. Endeavor, frustrated, launched a blast of fire at him. Izuku dodged effortlessly, showing no concern and not retaliating. This only fueled Endeavor's anger. "Are you just going to stand there and think I'm weak, brat?" Endeavor shouted. Izuku simply smirked and flipped him off, which only infuriated Endeavor further. He charged at Izuku, throwing punches and fire attacks, but Izuku skillfully dodged, creating distance. However, Endeavor managed to land a heated punch to Izuku's gut, causing him to stagger back and hit the ground. "Shouldn't have gotten involved with my business," Endeavor taunted. "You don't know what you're dealing with, boy. I'm a hero for a reason. I can do what I want with my family, including training my daughter as I see fit." As Izuku rose, he crouched down again, ready for the next move. Endeavor sighed, preparing to speak, but his words were cut off as the battle was about to begin. He talked, and Izuku was right behind him. With a swift movement, Izuku delivered a kick to his neck, but he didn't let go just yet. Instead, he aimed a punch lower, causing his opponent to stumble back and instinctively cover himself in pain. The other males in the vicinity flinched, some even shielding themselves. Endeavor glanced over to see Izuku crouched down again, his expression fierce. The onlookers felt a chill. It wasn't just the sight of Izuku's three tails swaying like the wind that unnerved them, but the intense aura he radiated. Izuku smirked, a wild glint in his eyes. "Let's see how brave you are when you face me, hero. You've just awakened an angry fox ready to fight." He was poised, ready to strike. What happened next caused me to slip into my oblivious state. Meanwhile, the rest of Class 1A sighed, thinking I had lost, but when they saw Izuku looking intently, they decided to stay and see what would happen. As midnight was about to announce the winner, I suddenly smirked and broke free from my confinement, electricity coursing through my body to boost my speed. "I'm not done yet," I shouted. She was surprised that I wasn't out, but she decided to attack me. I dodged her strike and quickly closed the distance, channeling a small burst of electricity through my right hand and placing it against her torso. "Shockwave!" I exclaimed. The electric shock caused her to cry out, rendering her unable to move. Just as she was about to hit the ground, I caught her in time, holding her in a bridal carry and noticing she had lost consciousness. When midnight announced that I had won, I decided to carry my opponent to Recovery Girls Clinic. After that, I took a deep breath and headed back to where the others were. Once I arrived, my classmates congratulated me, and I smiled a bit. However, when I looked toward Sensei, he wore an emotionless expression, his 9 tails moving around. I was about to approach him, but Minoru stopped me. "It's better to leave him for now," he said. The girls tried to talk to him, but he didn't respond. I nodded, though I didn't like it. I sighed and took my seat, looking forward to the next match. Izuku chased after Endeavor, moving swiftly on all fours and using his 3 tails to strike. When Endeavor tried to dodge, he received multiple cuts, but that didn't deter him. He unleashed blasts of fire at Izuku, who deftly dodged them, growing more furious as he closed the distance. Izuku landed a punch to Endeavor's gut, causing him to stagger back. The audience was shocked by this turn of events, and some were frustrated to see Endeavor struggling. Others cheered for the battle, while students from the 1st to 3rd years were astonished to witness one of the staff inflicting serious injuries on the number 2 hero. Back in the fight, Izuku pressed on, using his tail to grab Endeavor and delivering another punch that sounded painful. Izuku looked down at the defeated hero before summoning more of his tails. "You lose, Endeavor," he declared. With that, he charged at the hero, only to be pushed back by a powerful gust of wind. This only fueled Izuku's anger further. "Why do you intend to ruin my fun, All Might?" he shouted. All Might glanced at Endeavor, who was out of commission, then turned back to Izuku. "Young Kitsune, I don't know why you're acting this way, but trying to end a hero like Endeavor is something I cannot allow. You need to calm down right now." Izuku let out a chilling laugh. "You want me to calm down? I've looked up to you for as long as I can remember. You were the one who said, anyone can be a hero, but that was a lie." Before All Might could respond, he was suddenly struck and pushed back, feeling the impact resonate through his ribs. Clutching his side, he looked at Izuku, whose eyes were filled with fury. Crouching down, Izuku summoned a blast of condensed air and heat aimed at All Might. All Might felt the heat and tried to counter it with a punch, only to be met with pain from the blast. Smoke filled the arena, forcing the audience to shield their eyes. Class 1A grew worried, not for Kitsune-sensei, but for All Might, fearing he might get seriously hurt if this continued. Minoru, Denki, Katsumi, and Ochaco watched, feeling as though this confrontation was inevitable, and they were eager to see how it would end. All Might felt the pain in his hands but clenched his fists, staring at Izuku, whose aura was reaching its peak, winds swirling around him. "Apologize," Izuku demanded. All Might was taken aback by the request but remained firm. "I'm sorry, young man, but you don't have what it takes to win against me. You may be strong, but not everyone can be a hero. That's just the way it is, and you should have listened to me." All Izuku heard was the sound of glass shattering, followed by a voice that echoed ominously. "Are you ready to confront him now?" Izuku smirked. It's time for his retirement. With that, he felt a surge of power consuming him, the mark of the demon on his right shoulder enveloping him. All Might stepped back, sensing the ominous aura that gripped everyone around them, leaving them frozen in place. What is this?" All Might stammered. "You're in over your head, number one," the voice taunted. All Might trembled in fear as he looked at Izuku, whose appearance had transformed dramatically. His tails merged into one, and two sets of horns sprouted from the sides of his head, his eyes swirling with black and red. Izuku approached All Might, bringing himself down to his level. "If you won't apologize, then prepare to face my wrath." With that, he seized All Might by the neck and hurled him far from the stadium. His gaze landed on Nedzu, who simply nodded while sipping his tea. Izuku smirked, leaping high into the air, pursuing the man who was supposed to give him hope that day. Once he caught up, he used his tail to grab All Might by the neck again, leading him to a secluded area where they could not be interrupted. Once there, he released All Might, who gasped for breath and looked at Izuku with confusion. "Why are you doing this? Were you really just pretending to care?" All Might demanded. "I only care about a select few, and you're not one of them." "I have no connection to you," Izuku replied coldly. "Then why did you heal me? Tell me why." "Honestly, I didn't care at first. Nedzu ordered me to help you," Izuku admitted, watching as All Might's expression shifted to shock. "But now, I'm going to take that away by breaking you down until you're back to your old self," he added, crouching down as All Might prepared to fight. Izuku grinned, unleashing a roar filled with fury. "Get ready to meet your end." Izuku's POV. It had been a few days since the sports festival, where I had decisively defeated Endeavor and given All Might a reason to think twice before crossing me again. He was in so much pain that he reluctantly transferred his quirk to me. One for All, a quirk that has been passed down through generations, stockpiling energy from user to user. But honestly, I didn't care about that right now. I wouldn't use it for a while, I just wanted to understand it better. For some reason, I hadn't felt like myself since the battle with All Might. I sought solace in the forest, hoping for peace, but instead, I found myself spiraling into confusion. After using that form along with my fox transformation, I felt nothing but rage, melancholy, and an unexpected flirtatiousness. I even spent hours staring at my reflection in the water. Nedzu and Aizawa found me during this time. They explained what had happened to All Might, which made me chuckle internally. The poor guy had a significant injury in the same spot as before, But this time, I had been far more intense during our fight. I had used one of my tails to grab him and swung him around before superheating it, causing him immense discomfort. I couldn't help but laugh at the memory, making Aizawa visibly uncomfortable. After reminiscing, I walked toward the school dressed in a black yukata with red trimmings and fox-like patterns, traditional geta on my feet, and my fox mask at my side. As I entered, students stared in awe at my appearance, and I noticed some girls swooning, causing me to wink at them, which made a few faint. I made my way to the principal's office to see what Nedzu wanted to discuss. Upon entering, I saw him speaking with someone. When I closed the door, Nedzu looked my way, and the other person turned to face me. "Ah, nice to see you, Midoriya. Why don't you take a seat?" Nedzu said, his tone casual. This immediately put me on high alert. "Nedzu, what's going on here?" Before he could respond, the person approached me, smiling. I felt an overwhelming urge to dominate this encounter. "There's no need to be so defensive, Izuku," she said playfully. "I don't know who you are, but you better watch it," I warned, glaring at her. Nedzu urged me to calm down, but I was too on edge. Suddenly, she leaned in and kissed me, and before I knew it, we were locked in a playful struggle for dominance in Nedzu's office, who simply continued sipping his tea, unfazed. Nobody's POV. After what happened in Nedzu's office, Izuku was walking alongside Nikosuke, who had no last name. This surprised him, especially when she revealed to Nedzu what she was. She explained that she only listens to those who are part of the animal kingdom and those she trusts, following them until the end. Being part of that, Izuku couldn't see any deception in her eyes. As they walked toward Class 1A, he asked, "So your name is Nekashu Itazura?" "Yep, but you can call me Nico for short, Kitsune-senpai," she replied, her energy infectious, making Izuku tilt his head at her behavior. "So, is there anything I should know since I've been gone for a while?" he inquired. Nico tapped her chin thoughtfully. "Well, I'm your replacement teacher assistant. Since you were away, I've been helping Class 1A as much as I can, giving them pointers. Just your regular school stuff, Her cat ears twitched, and her tail swayed as she spoke. Curious, Izuku asked why she wasn't assisting Class 1B. She explained that Vlad didn't want her because she might distract the boys, which made Izuku laugh at the absurdity of it. "Well then, how did Aizawa let you stay? Knowing him, he'd likely give you a hard time." "One word. Coffee," Nico replied with a grin. Izuku chuckled. "Oh my god, so if it's Aizawa, just bribe him with coffee and you're good." They both laughed, enjoying their cheerful banter. Meanwhile, in Class 1A, the students felt a bit gloomy after not seeing Kitsune-sensei for a while. Ochaco, Katsumi, Denki, and Minoru hadn't heard from him, and when the girls tried to ask Himiko and Mirko, they were told he was in a bad mood, which didn't sit well with them. Aizawa, ensuring everyone was quiet, informed them they needed to come up with hero names, which excited the class. Just as he was about to elaborate, a knock on the door interrupted him. The students turned to see Nico enter. "Naya, it's nice to see you're all as cheerful as ever, meow," she said, raising her hands. "But wait, I have a surprise for you all." This excited everyone, including Aizawa, who simply laughed, realizing what was happening. When the students heard footsteps, they saw a male figure in a traditional outfit with black pants and sandals. What shocked them was the mask on the side of his head and the smile he wore as he raised his hand. "Well, it's nice to see you all again," Izuku greeted. The students rushed toward him, some with tears in their eyes, while others smiled brightly at the sight of their sensei. Izuku smiled back, and the girls hugged his tails, enjoying the softness. Afterward, he explained that he had needed time alone to think after his outburst during the sports festival. The students understood, though some had questions they decided to save for later. With Midnight now present, she was doing her best to hold onto Izuku while feeling his fox ears. Nico watched this, grabbing one of Izuku's tails and glaring at Midnight playfully. As the students announced their hero names, some were accepted while others needed to come up with different ones. The announced names included Katsumi Bakugu, Explosive Hero, Ground Zero; Shoko Todoroki, Frostburn; Minoru Mineta, Yoto; Jihiroi or Yoto for short, After class, Izuku stepped out to talk to someone. He managed to escape the playful grip of two women who were almost about to argue. Once outside, he sighed and grabbed his phone, dialing a number. After a few rings, it connected. "What's up, kid? It's been a while since we've talked," came the voice on the other end. "Yeah, it has. Listen, I need to know if you're free to talk face to face. We need to get back into action like old times." "Sure, I'll let you know when I have the time. See you later, Animal King." "Yeah, see you later, Stain." Izuku hung up, letting out another sigh. "Is there something you need, Nico?" he asked, turning to see her smiling at him, her eyes glowing. "Well, since you've been trying so hard to hide your identity, you have to let me in on your little secrets, huh?" Izuku sighed again. "The only reason I'm agreeing is that my instincts never fail me, and it seems I have to trust you. But..." He leaned in closer, his tail surrounding her as his eyes shifted. "If you betray my trust, I won't let anyone find you." Nico felt the pressure but also blushed, grinning. "It won't matter, I'll listen to you no matter what, master." Izuku growled softly, making her squirm under his gaze. "All right, you're coming with me when the students go to the agency they were chosen for." He left for a moment, his eyes still intense. "That girl, Nico, isn't her real name, yet I still trust her," he thought. Meanwhile, Nico was lost in her daydreams. "Oh, big brother, you're so cool. Even when you glare at me, I love it. Hee, I'm going to go on a date with him. This is going to be so much fun." She thought about this while her tail swayed back and forth, her excitement palpable. Izuku's POV. It was dark outside, and I found myself sitting on top of a building, gazing at the stars. I was still wearing my yukata, though it fit snugly now, and I had my gatas on my feet with my mask covering my face. My hair flowed in the wind. "Ah, so there you are, Kitsune. I was starting to think you wouldn't show up at all," a voice called out. I turned to see Nekishu, who looked different, more intimidating in her battle kimono. "Are you trying to make me chase after you?" I asked, raising an eyebrow. She simply smiled, which made me sigh. I had just said goodbye to my students, giving Ida a warning since his brother was injured, but I knew he wouldn't listen. "So, where are we going, Kitsune?" "I hope it's somewhere nice," she said, her ears drooping slightly. I stood up, clenching my right hand as I felt a surge of energy. "Well, little kitty, we're going somewhere important, but it's not exactly romantic." She pouted, but I reached out to pet her head, bringing a smile back to her face. "The principal sent me to a location he said was crucial, so we need to go." "Are we walking there?" she asked, a hint of concern in her voice. "Oh yeah, so you better use your powers because I certainly will," I replied, hopping away with her following closely behind. Yamanashi Prefecture. Time skip. Nekishu and I approached a run-down apartment. I had come here based on some information from Nedzu regarding the history of One for All. I wasn't keen on talking to All Might about it, so I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. I opened it and stepped inside with Nekishu. "Hello? Is anyone here? I'm looking for Grand Tour." I started, but my words trailed off as I spotted a short old man lying face down on the floor, a red substance pooling beneath him. We exchanged glances, waiting in silence until the old man lifted his head. "I'm alive!" Gran Torino exclaimed. Nekishu and I stared at him blankly. "Are you Gran Torino, old man?" I asked. "Geez, youngsters these days aren't much fun to mess with, but yes, I am Gran Torino, you brat," he replied. "Good to know. I assume you've heard from Principal Nedzu about why my partner and I are here." I said. "Yes, Izuku Midoriya, the Animal King, and now the 9th holder of One for All," he responded, a hint of amusement in his voice. I smirked but quickly wiped it off. "Well then, I look forward to being trained by someone with more experience than All Might." Gran Torino laughed, and I joined in, though Nekishu sighed and said she would see if she could find anything in the shadows before giving me a quick kiss and heading off. "Since I'll be training you, you better be ready to put in the effort, brat," Gran Torino warned. I grinned, pulling part of my yukata away to reveal a tight black shirt. "I can't wait to train with you, Gran Torino." With that, we squared off, ready to begin our training. A few days passed, and I was getting accustomed to using One for All under Gran Torino's guidance. I sat on a rooftop, contemplating the night sky. Enjoying the view? A voice interrupted. I looked up to see Nekishu sitting on top of me, her cat-like smile brightening my mood. "Well, it's nice to see you again, Nekishu," I replied, feeling her rest her head on my chest as I absent-mindedly patted her head, listening to her purr. "So, how's your work going?" I asked, just hoping my boss doesn't suspect anything. "I've been doing well, being called the Animal Queen while you've been in hiding," she said, glancing at my face. I felt a playful growl escape me, my eyes shifting to a cat-like appearance with dark red irises. "Oh, this little kitty needs to be taught a lesson," I teased. "Naya," she replied playfully. Just then, Gran Torino, enjoying some taiyaki, sighed as he overheard us. "Kids these days have no sense of shame. Stop making out on my roof, you brats." Meanwhile, in Hosu, Ida was walking with the hero Manuel. Ida was determined to find Stain, ignoring his sensei's warnings about the dangers involved. As they talked, Kurogiri brought Stain to the League of Villains hideout to meet Tamura Shigaraki. Stain learned that Tamura wanted him to join his league, aiming to eliminate All Might and anyone he deemed unsatisfactory, including some students from Class 1A. Stain, seeing Tamura's childishness, remarked that there was no sense in bloodshed without a cause. Back to me, I was training hard, using One for All and creating arcs of green energy around me. I had managed to tap into half of One for All's power, which was a significant achievement. Gran Torino laughed, saying that All Might was getting his comeuppance for his past actions, and I couldn't help but join in the laughter. Katsumi arrived at her workplace, Best Genus Hero office in Tokyo. He explained that reforming brutish people was part of his job and that he would show her what it meant to be a hero. Katsumi couldn't shake the feeling that she had made a mistake by coming here. "I want Izuku to get me out of here," she thought, feeling trapped. Ijiro had chosen to work at Fourth Kind's hero office, where he was ready to face his own challenges. As Fourth Kind explains the mechanisms of his salary, Ijiro and Tetsutetsu are surprised to see each other at the same workplace and greet each other with handshakes. Fourth Kind informs Ijiro and Tetsutetsu that he will explain their practical operations. Ochaco is at Gunhead's hero agency, which is her workplace of choice. She listens intently as Gunhead explains what his office does and how he earns income. Momo and Itsuka have both chosen to gain experience at Snake Hero Iwabami's workplace. Iwabami explains to the duo about her hero office's work and how to gain popularity. She mentions that she has a commercial to film and encourages Momo and Itsuka to get to know each other. Itsuka feels a bit disappointed about not experiencing pro heroes at work, but Momo remains optimistic about studying under the Snake Hero, prompting Itsuka to comment on her upbeat attitude. Both Minoru and Denki have chosen to intern with the ninja hero, Edge Shot. They are excited about the opportunity but know they need to be serious to train their minds to be calm and collected, allowing them to better utilize their quirks. Later that night, Gran Torino is seen sleeping while outside. Izuku and Nico are on the roof, with Nico holding her computer as they search through images on the dark web, investigating high-profile villains. Nico points out a target. "What about him? He seems easy enough to take down." Izuku examines the man's information. Yeah, he seems like easy prey, but it'll take some time to find most of these guys since they've heard about me and what I'm capable of, so they'll likely be hiding." Suddenly, Izuku's phone buzzes with a message. "We need to meet soon." He chuckles softly. Nico asks, What's funny?" Izuku pats her head, causing her cat ears to perk up. "Don't worry, just something I'll deal with later." As they continue looking through the list, an unusual energy begins to form around them. Izuku's mark, which bore the word demon, starts to change, while Nico's mark, a white symbol, appears in the center of her back. Meanwhile, in Hosu, it's afternoon, and atop a building, Kurogiri's portal opens, releasing 3 Nomus of varying sizes. Shigaraki commands them to wreak havoc, a manic smile on his face, though it fades as he recalls a troubling memory. "Why do I keep having that memory? What does it mean?" Later that night, Izuku and Nico, now in their hero suits, are on a train to Shinjuku with Gran Torino. Suddenly, an emergency stop occurs, and a crash creates a hole in the side of the train, revealing an unconscious hero. Izuku isn't surprised to see a Nomu, similar to the one from the USJ incident, but this one is thinner with green skin. As it prepares to attack, Gran Torino pushes it away using his quirk, prompting Izuku and Nico to follow. Gran Torino! Izuku calls out. It's alright, kid. Just make sure you two don't cause any problems, Gran Torino replies. Izuku watches with a smile. Sorry, Torino, but I won't be keeping that promise. As he sees Hosu ablaze, concern for Ida crosses his face. He sighs and lands atop a building. Nico asks, so what's the plan? Izuku laughs, looking at his twin. The plan? Well. He reveals his true self, donning a new set of clothes. The plan is to stir up a little trouble, but first, I have to DSPLN a naughty student of mine. Care to join me, Izumi? With a smile, Nico transforms into her true self, mirroring Izuku's appearance but with a different color scheme. Finally! You have no idea how thrilled I am to be me. She gives Izuku a quick kiss, and as they sprout wings his black as night and hers a snowy white they take off into the night sky. Meanwhile, Stain lurks in an alley, overhearing the chaos in Hosu. Realizing Tamura has made his move, he decides to finish his business by preparing to confront the pro-hero native with his katana. However, he senses someone approaching from behind and swiftly slashes, knocking the person down and revealing it to be Tenya Ida. This doesn't involve you. Leave, Stain warns. But Ida, filled with determination, responds, I'm searching for you. Stain notices the vengeance in Ida's eyes and points his katana at him. You're serious about being a hero? Prepare yourself for death, hero, Stain replies, readying his weapons. Meanwhile, Gran Torino has smashed the Noma-like creature into a small building. The creature slashes at him, but Gran Torino dodges just in time. Spotting two civilians in danger, he leaps to save them, but the Noma-like creature is suddenly scorched by flames, forcing Gran Torino to retreat. Endeavor, the hero who scorched the creature, informed Gran Torino that he hadn't yet made acquaintances with the elderly hero and that he would handle the Noma-like creature himself. Shortly after, Izuku and Izumi arrived in Hosu, witnessing pro-heroes battling against two Nomas. Confusion struck Izuku when he realized Ida was not among the fighters. He quickly discovered that Ida had come to Hosu to track down Stain, which infuriated Izuku. He and Izumi left the battlefield to search for Ida, hoping to find him quickly while following his scent. On top of a building, Tamura praised the three Nomas for their destruction. Kurogiri asked Tamura if he would join the attack, but Tamura replied that he wouldn't due to his injuries. He ominously stated that when dawn broke, the world would forget about Stain. Meanwhile, the battle between Stain and Tenya commenced. Tenya executed a high-speed kick, but the hero killer dodged effortlessly. Stain retaliated by slamming Tenya into the ground and striking his shoulder with his katana. The reason you and your brother lost is that you are both fake heroes, Stain taunted, provoking Tenya's anger. My brother is not a fake. He has done so much and is a true hero. I will avenge him, Tenya declared fiercely. Stain advised Tenya to save the injured pro-hero first, shocking him. Acting out of vengeance is the furthest thing from being a hero, Stain remarked. He then liked his bloodied katana and activated his quirk, immobilizing Tenya. Goodbye, fake, Stain said, preparing to deliver the final blow. Just then, he sensed a presence nearby and swung his katana, only for it to be stopped by a figure. Really, Stain? Been through this so many times, the figure said. All Stain could do was laugh. It's good to see you again, Animal King. Izuku Midoriya. When Ida heard this, he looked up to see Izuku glaring back at him with anger. Izuku floated down to assess the situation. Huh, so this is the person you've trained with, huh, Izuku? Izumi remarked. I'm surprised you have a partner with you. I thought I was the only one, Stain said. With you always leaving, can you blame me? Now, what are you doing, Stain? Izuku asked. As you can see, I'm finishing up my work, Stain replied, gesturing to the injured hero native. Izuku pointed at Ida, who was struggling to rise. Why did you have to hurt this one's older brothers so badly? I made sure that hero can walk and not be paralyzed, Stain replied nonchalantly. Sure you did, Izuku said, walking toward native, prompting Ida to shout at him. Why are you doing this? You're the same age as me. Why choose this path? Ida pleaded. Izuku paused and simply laughed. Because I want to. With that he unleashed his wing toward native, causing him to cough and struggle. Ida watched helplessly as the light faded from native's eyes. Izuku then approached Ida, grabbing him by the head. Now you see the role you've chosen, but you won't die. I'll let nature take care of that, he said, releasing Ida, who fell to the ground. Stain, do you have anything else you need to do? Izuku asked. Thanks to you, his life was spared. Let's go, Stain replied. Yeah, Izuku agreed, and together with Izumi, they flew off, leaving Ida to question his choices. Meanwhile, on another battlefield, the Noma-like creature absorbed and released Endeavor's flames, but Endeavor mocked the creature's quirk and its feeble attempts. Gran Torino warned Endeavor to be cautious, as the Noma-like creature possessed multiple quirks. The creature prepared to attack Endeavor with a tongue-like appendage. Suddenly, Gran Torino propelled himself at great speed and crashed down onto the Noma-like creature, defeating it. Endeavor instructed his sidekicks to restrain the Noma-like creature and told Gran Torino to head to the address he would provide while he went to assist the other heroes battling the remaining Nomas. Arriving just in time, Endeavor saved a female hero from being crushed by a muscular Nomu, delivering a powerful flaming punch. He noted the Nomu's regenerative abilities and, in his next attack, grabbed the Nomu's head and unleashed blue flames, ensuring the carbonized cells couldn't regenerate. The flying Nomu began to flee with a defeated pro-hero in its grasp. Endeavor urged the other pro-heroes to support Gran Torino while he pursued the creature. He carefully struck its head with a flaming lance, causing the Nomu to release its grip on the pro-hero, whom Endeavor caught. He watched as the injured Nomu fled, declaring that it wouldn't get far. Back with Izuku, Stain, and Izumi, the trio landed on one of the buildings. Stain bid them farewell, leaving only the twins behind. This was a bit anticlimactic, don't you think? Izuku mused. I wouldn't say that, Izumi replied, firing a projectile at a flying Nomu, which crashed to the ground below. Izuku sighed but laughed, wondering what would happen next.